When the moon is full, the legend comes to life. This episode on The Devil's Workshop, it's Joe Johnston's The Wolfman. Hello, and welcome to the Devil's Workshop podcast. I'm your host, Katie Oliver.
And I am your host, Nick Oliver.
And I can't remember, is this our first werewolf?
Yes, it is our first werewolf.
Wow.
So we have done... Actually, let me look at the list.
Yeah.
Of what we've done so far. We have done alien parasites, leprechauns, vampires, ghosts again, serial killers, zombies, mutants, whatever a cure for wellness is.
Eels.
Pod people, back to serial killers, the keep, ancient, whatever kind of entity he is.
Spirit.
Yeah, but finally werewolves. Yeah, so we're
Wow.
we're one Frankenstein away from capturing most of the classic Universal monsters.
Now, would you say that is a vampire equivalent to Dracula? Like, is a vampire a Dracula?
No, a vampire is not a Dracula.
Okay.
We're asking the important questions here. In this.
Just a lot of sort of like the fundamentals, I think. Have we done a mummy?
No,
we didn't do a mummy.
We haven't done a mummy. No, I'm being reductive because no, we haven't done a mummy.
We haven't done a creature from the Black Lagoon.
We've not done a creature. I mean, we haven't done a Dracula. That isn't the same.
Yeah,
obviously.
where's my Dracula?
So we haven't done a bride of.
Of anything.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
so we're missing
true.
quite a lot, actually. We haven't done an Invisible Man.
Oh. Yeah, we should do that at some point.
Maybe.
Or something.
Yeah.
I don't know. It would be kind of fun to, like, check off the bingo card of the classic monsters.
Yeah, but in this case, we specifically... This is a remake of one of the classic Universal Studios horror monsters.
The 1941
The 40s.
The Wolfman.
Yeah,
yes.
so which would include Dracula, the Wolfman...
A Frankenstein.
Frankenstein's creature, yeah. So we're right in that lineage. We may as well get into the history. I've not seen most of those movies. I have seen Dracula.
Me too.
I think most people nowadays think the best of them is Bride of Frankenstein.
I've heard good things. I've heard that one is very interesting.
Yeah, but I've never seen the Wolfman.
Have you ever seen the silent film version, the Lon Chaney version of Phantom of the Opera?
No.
That one is super cool.
Yeah.
I saw that with a live accompaniment once.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
The closest I come to having any history with the Universal Studios monsters is one of my favorite movies when I was a little boy was Monster Squad, in which a horror-themed club of intrepid 80s child protagonists battle against the Universal monsters. That wasn't
full
a Universal
gauntlet, really.
Yeah, that wasn't a Universal property, but it was. I guess that was just open concept enough. You could just do that without it evoking necessarily that. But yeah, it was Frankenstein's monster, Dracula, Wolfman,
The Mummy,
and the creature from the Black Lagoon, which they called the Gill Man
Gill
in that movie for reasons of copyright, I'm sure. But yeah, I don't go deep on that. So today we're gonna do a direct remake of one of those movies.
Yes.
So we have to give the same caveats that we always do, which is that in our revision, if we've revised it to being closer to the original movie, we don't know about that.
Yeah, if it hews
I don't.
closer to or farther away from the original, we have no idea.
Yeah.
I will say I genuinely glanced at the synopsis for the original.
I did
just
too.
to scoop up a little Easter egg type thing.
Yeah.
But it's so minor that I wouldn't say I have any kind of understanding.
Yeah,
of
I read
it.
a brief summary of it because there are a couple of elements, like all remakes, or maybe not all, but a lot of remakes, they'll have these weird vestigial things, which if you don't know the source material, you're like, why is this here?
It feels bizarre.
What's the point of this? So we'll get into it, but just a quick example of that is in this movie, there's the silvered cane, which... that being an important thing, like why it's an odd enough item, like why does this matter? Why is this included in this movie? In the original movie, the werewolf is killed by a silvered cane, so that's the weapon that the Wolfman is killed with.
And it's the remake is oddly deferential to it, without really doing anything to set up why it matters or it's important. It really kind of feels like a bit of a red herring, honestly.
Yeah, so I glanced at things like that, like, okay, why is this here? So I did give it at least that much attention. I try not to look into the original source material at all, especially, like, we've done some novel adaptations, which I didn't even read, like, a summary of the novel in any of those cases, I think. So anyway, there's that same disclaimer that we always give. There was another one I wanted to mention. What was it? Oh, shoot.
Was it about some element of the
director's cut?
Oh, yes.
So that's the other thing that is important to mention here. So in this movie, this has a director's cut, which is some 12 or 14 minutes longer. This movie's from 2010, and a lot of movies from 2000 to 2010, horror movies at least, have lots of unrated director's cuts that were put out. I don't know if the MPAA was really aggressive in cutting out violence and gore at the time. So when DVDs were coming out, studios were kind of capitalizing on that. We're still talking about the DVD era to a great
was
extent.
that just kind of the perfect, like, oh, you should get the DVD?
Yeah, so they would release the theatrical cut initially, and then a couple months later they'd release the unrated director's cut, so that people would double dip. That was often the thinking. So it was kind of a cynical capitalistic maneuver, but it's really common in that era.
That feels like it's really fallen away in this day and age.
It has. Well, because nobody's buying physical media anymore, so that's part of that. But one of the problems with that is that with the unrated director's cut that comes out, that a lot of the time that becomes the de facto version of the movie eventually.
The definitive.
Many, even though it's not necessarily like the better version of the movie, but people see it like, oh, it's more, it's longer, it's the director's original vision. Often it's not, but it's actually just a studio's vision of how to make more money. And in this case, that's going to introduce some problems. But for our sake, so if anybody wants to watch this movie and more familiarize yourself with the material, we did the director's cut because it seems like it's the more de facto version. That said, this one you can watch for free on YouTube, which I didn't realize until after we'd done all of our work. The YouTube version is the theatrical cut. There's another version that's on HBO Max. I'm not sure which version of the story that is.
And I will say, I think I am glad that we ended up watching the longer of the two, just so I could kind of see all that there was to see. Yeah,
for our purpose, it's I think the better version,
right?
Because you can see, it gives
There's
you
more to work with.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. But I'm really looking forward to talking about this one because this is a weird movie.
Yeah, I remember seeing ads for this at the time. It must have been, I don't know if I was just going to the movies and saw trailers for it or whatever. I remember thinking it looked really good, and it kind of came and went. But I remember thinking that the trailers made it pretty appealing.
So
to me.
You had your version of my A Cure for Wellness experience,
perhaps,
where the trailer kind of haunted my dreams.
Yeah.
That's funny. And then the movie was promptly forgotten.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
This movie was kind of, it
flash in the pan.
Yeah.
Alas.
Well, they've tried to do a lot with the Universal stuff in
and it
modern
never
memory.
works.
Yeah, so it, oh gosh, I mean, they did The Mummy with Tom Cruise. So Alex Kurtzman, the guy who helped to ruin Star Trek and ruin basically everything he's touched. He somehow just has kept failing upward. So he tried to launch the Dark Universe, which I feel dumb even stringing those words together, knowing what it alludes to. But the Dark Universe, which was a horror version of the MCU, essentially, the Marvel Cinematic Universe. That was the idea. So we're going to string together all these things, which the Universal monsters crossed over with each other in the 40s. So it's not nuts that they would do that, I guess. But they tried to. I mean, they clearly were making them as if they were adventure. Heightened, exciting movies, not horror movies, right?
Yeah,
which the original ones did. I mean, eventually Abbott and Costello crossed over with them, so the original ones got goofy too. It's not like these are completely pure products in the first place, but
I think of them in kind of like the adjacent category to like the swashbuckling picture or something, or like the adventure movie.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, I have so little exposure to those. I'm not sure that I can agree or disagree with that, I suppose. But
now, okay, well, that does bring me to the question though, like, what would it take, do you think, in the year of our Lord 2026 to sell a Creature of the Black Lagoon movie?
I don't
like, is the world ready
I don't know.
for that?
Yeah, why not? I think you could do Off the Dome. I mean, I've never seen The Creature of the Black Lagoon, and I think that's supposed to be people generally consider that to be among the weakest of those, because that's more of a technical showhouse or showboat in its time, which now, like, filming stuff underwater isn't as big a deal. But at the time, that was a real accomplishment, being able to pull off a suit of a guy like swimming around. That was a big thing. But I don't think that the story, it's as interesting as some of the others are. But that said, I think you could do stuff with that. Climate change, the Amazon, some kind of eco horror, things being uncovered as I think you could do that. Sure,
that's true. No, that's a good point. I was thinking more like campy. I don't know. I mean, and I say this like completely without irony, completely unfacetiously. Wes Anderson's Creature of the Black Lagoon. I would give my left arm to see that.
Sure.
Anyway, just something that I was thinking about.
All right.
Yeah. So, I mean, should we get into it?
Yeah, let's dive right in there.
Okay. Into the Black Lagoon? Sorry. I'm sorry. I'll stop.
All right, you want to talk about what's working?
I do. Let's, continue the time-honored tradition of talking about performances.
Okay.
This is kind of a smaller than usual, but I like Anthony Hopkins' performance in this movie.
Yeah, poor Anthony Hopkins is back on our show.
I know.
One of the great actors is apparently can't get away from our podcast.
Look,
or
Sir
give us an
Anthony,
opportunity to
we
shit all over him.
love you, okay?
He doesn't care. He doesn't care what we think. He doesn't care. And he shouldn't care.
He shouldn't. But it's weird. When I was reading like Letterboxd reviews for this movie, so many people were calling his performance like a real ham and cheese. And I'm like, huh? Like, did we watch the same movie? Because for so much of the film, he's very like distant and cold and just withdrawn, and just chilly. I don't know. I was like, what?
Yeah, I don't know that there's anybody in this movie who's bad. Often I can point to somebody who I think is bad.
Oh, we maybe differ.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, interesting. I'm guessing it's Benicio.
I'm sorry, Benicio.
Yeah, it is. Oh, okay. All right. We'll talk about that. I don't think he's great in this movie. I mean, there are a couple of moments that are a little awkward because seeing him turn into a werewolf by CG is just such a strange thing to see his body mutate.
It is.
And to see his severed head go flying off while it's still like chomping because he's biting.
Yes.
So his severed head turns into a human head, is still chomping.
Because there's that thing, like the wolf's head can still bite after it's dead.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
But that is but that's CG. It's
That's
CG of its
kind
time,
of separate from him and his performance.
But yeah, he is a little weird at times. Like I think that he's distant and cold, but he does have a couple lines that he successfully sells that I think a lesser actor would kind of struggle with.
Yeah.
When he visits Benicio Lawrence, Mr. Talbot, in the asylum, and he gives that speech. He's talking about, I used to be a prize fighter when I was young, and I knocked out poor Singh. I just knocked him out cold, and he gives that swing of his arms. I think a lesser actor would have had a hard time selling that, introducing this weird, oh, by the way, I was a prize fighter when I was young. That's hard to do when it's useful context for something. It feels like it's justifying something at a point where you need the justification. For this guy, you get the sense that he's wizened and has past that you don't know about. I mean, he's an old man, right? He has a life that is unknown to his son.
Right.
Like that kind of stuff. You're like, okay, he does sell that.
Yeah, and it's still like, I think just outside of his performance, there's a lot of awkwardness that the script requires of him. And I don't necessarily like the way the movie uses the character, but there were moments in his performance where I was like, all right.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. I mean, you can see he's an interesting actor because of course, if you're talking about something like Hannibal Lecter, you're talking about at least in The Silence of the Lambs, not so much in Hannibal, as that's well trodden ground for us, but in The Silence of the Lambs, you're talking about a human actor playing a character which is, to me, completely inhuman. The Hannibal Lecter is a complete monster, and he's completely unrecognizable to me as being a human thing. Whereas this, that's not so much the case. It's weird to see when you're introduced to an actor playing a character like that, which for most people, that's probably the first movie they saw him in. Maybe The Elephant Man. But he's still a Shakespearean English actor, so American audiences generally didn't know him at that point. Right. Now most people do. He's the Odin. He's in the MCU, right? The second time that's come up.
Yeah.
So is Benicio.
To come to think of it, yes.
Anyway, it's a real distraction. Seeing him just go back to being a skilled Shakespearean actor, a guy who has gravitas, it's weird. But you can sort of have to appreciate that's a different set of skills that's on display.
Yeah,
but he does as well as he can with the material, I think.
Yeah, I don't think there's a lot on offer in this script.
Yeah.
I really don't. Yeah. But I do think of all the performances in this movie, I probably like his the best. I always enjoy, the members of the cast are all actors I really like. I really like Emily Blunt. I really like, generally, Benicio del Toro. Love Hugo Weaving. I just feel like most of them don't have that much to do here, but I am getting ahead of myself, so I just don't have that much else to say about performance.
Sure. Yeah, I like everybody, including Benicio, actually. So we'll talk about that.
Sure.
But I wouldn't mount a spirited defense of him. I don't think that the material gives most people much of an opportunity here.
Well, frankly, there's not much to elevate.
Yeah, it's true.
But we're supposed to be talking about things we like.
Yeah, so sorry. And I'll make a quick reference to this too, because this is something that is hard for us to talk about in this, so we'll just sort of bring it up and then send it away. But everything about the look of the movie is really great. Sets, lighting, costumes, makeup. So this is, I meant to look this up before we talked about this, and I forgot to, but I think this may be our first Academy Award winning movie on this podcast.
I'm sorry, what?
Did you not realize that?
No, I didn't realize.
Yeah, it won an Academy Award for makeup effects.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, right. Rick Baker.
Right. Yeah. So Rick Baker did what to many is the best practical effects sequence in horror cinema, which is An American Werewolf in London. So another werewolf movie. So him coming back and doing this movie was him revisiting well-trodden ground. And I think he won the Academy Award for that as well.
Yes, he did.
The Academy, or those effects in the 80s, I do think are better than this. Which is kind of funny.
They're superb. Like I actually visited Universal Studios as a teenager and got to see like a kind of workshop on how he created some of those effects, and he used
cool.
like pneumatics and all these crazy like it was so intricate and interesting. I have so much respect for anyone who does creature effects like this, because it's just you have to be good at thinking about so many different things at once,
right?
And so good with so many different kinds of technologies and skills. So yeah, I mean, American Werewolf in London, can't say a word against those effects. They're incredible.
Yeah, it's one of the greats. Look it up on YouTube if you've never seen it. At least,
oh my
just
god,
watch the clip.
Watch them.
Yeah,
watch them.
So that's basically like one of the best ever revisiting the same sort of subject material. So yeah, it's great, as you would expect.
Yeah.
Again, that's not something. Everything about the look of this movie, I think, is outstanding. It's worth watching just for that. Like, if you're the sort of audience member who really appreciates that kind of thing,
yes,
then this is good for you.
If you are someone who appreciates like the feel, the vibe, the tone of a movie, this movie has a lot to offer for that. It's like, it's so sort of gross and drab and grotesque. Like, there are moments where it almost feels like a caricature of the thing that it's trying to be in a way that I like. Like, it's like, so like, oh, well, what if we just added 700 more pounds of cobwebs?
Right.
And what if everything was just like dingy and black for some reason? And I was like, you know what? I love that. That works for me. A lot of the sets look so fantastic. Yeah, just the look of this movie is very successful. So I can see how it would be cut into a great trailer.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, even the CG is decent for its time. It holds the movie back now. It's still like, I mean, this is a 2010 movie. I think it sat on the shelf for a while. I think it's like 2009 CD, 2008, somewhere in there.
I actually thought it looked like, okay, listener, as we were watching this film together, the whole time I was, for some reason in my head, I was like, oh wow, this looks pretty good for a movie that was made in 2005. And then I found out that it was 2010 and I was like, oh my god.
Yeah.
But that did give me a laugh.
Sure.
Oh, I mean, I've got to point this out. I love the nod to Percy Shelley.
Sure.
Yeah. There's a quotation.
That was the funny thing, is that so often in your revisions of movies, you write in,
I know,
people quoting poetry or passages of literature.
It's my peccadillo.
And then this movie has denied you this opportunity by getting there before you could.
That's true. Yeah, I don't have my chance to quote unquote innovate in that way that I've done so many times. But,
well,
I mean, did I expand the quote? It's possible.
Sure.
It's possible.
Well, there is one thing I would like to say about the writing.
Yeah.
The theoretical idea of this podcast, right? And this is less writing is more of a choice. I mean, that's all writing, but anyway, what I like is that there's two things that I think are really exceptional here. One is that we meet a werewolf right away. So first sequence of the movie, boom, you got a werewolf. And you get a not great, but decent enough look at it. So you kind of know what you're in for with this. Because, and I think that's a strong and useful choice for us, because you're in for a movie called The Wolfman. If you're going to see this kind of movie, that's a remake of a Universal Studios movie, you're in it for the creature. It's not a haunting on the moor, right? You're not in for this experience. It's a different framing, right? So you want to see the creature. The creature is the point. That's the endeavor, right? So you want to linger with the creature itself. The second thing I like about it is that the werewolf is well understood in universe. So everybody knows about werewolves. Mm-hmm. It's a legend that everybody's familiar with. Everybody's like, oh, werewolf, I know how you kill them. You kill them with silver. Like, the mythology of that is understood more or less.
Yeah.
I mean, there are depths to it that they might have to go to the Romani to deal with or something, but otherwise, like, it's an understood phenomenon in universe. And that's useful because when you're dealing with a Universal Studios horror monster, we all are also familiar with it. You don't have to say, a werewolf, what do you do? Let's spend a half to 2/3 of the movie with our characters discovering what's going on. Is it a werewolf? Oh gosh, we don't know. What's killing people? No one has any idea. Oh, it's a werewolf. Okay, how do we do that? Let's go on this big research expedition. Let's talk to the sages and let's discover how werewolves are killed. You don't have any of that stuff at all. Because
moves.
Well, it doesn't linger on that stuff because everybody in the world knows that already. There's no audience member that doesn't already understand that. Not really. It's such an established creature because it's a Universal Studios horror monster.
Yeah. Well, and something that's a little bit interesting that amuses me about that is that apparently, and I would have to do more research to tell if this is true, but that the silver thing wasn't exceptionally established until the 20th century. So in reality rather, if there was actually a werewolf wandering the moors in 1891, people might not have known what to do, or there would have been sort of a plethora of folk remedies and protections. So I do think that's like a little like tee-hee, but I'm not going to hold that against the movie.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. I don't care if it's historically accurate at all. I mean, that can be enriching, and you might allude. There are times. It depends
on the take.
Yeah, that's
just
fine.
like anything.
Yeah, just like anything. Sure.
I did. It just did make me giggle a little bit. Like,
yeah. I'm not at all surprised to learn that that's a modern idea. I mean, all of these things change over time. So yeah, that's great.
The first chunk of the movie, like when Lawrence is coming home and kind of meeting his father for the first time in his adult life, and is sort of going around and talking to the Romani and the villagers and stuff. I like that section of the movie a lot.
Yeah.
I think it goes off the rails for me in a pretty big way after that, but I like that for the first like little chunk. I was like, yeah, okay, why did everyone forget about this movie? I'm enjoying myself.
Sure.
I think it works pretty well.
I kept most of that. I'll go ahead and spoil.
As did I.
Yeah, I kept. I definitely made some small changes here and there. In some of that, but him going into the village, finding his brother's body, going to the tavern, and having that interaction. I kept all of that pretty much. That's pretty strong material there. Yeah, there's some good stuff for sure. Even though overall I think this movie doesn't work. I mean, I'll be clear about that.
Yeah.
Another thing that I think is really strong, that stuff works. The thing that I think is the most strong material in the movie actually is the flashback sequence in the asylum.
Where he's having that sort of like the stitched sequence of hallucinations and stuff.
That's all I think really great. Yeah, that's some good stuff because it shows the passage of time so he's having a series of hallucinations for a few reasons. So he goes to the asylum because he is believed to have committed mass murder. He does, just as the Wolfman. So he's a werewolf at this point. Yeah. So he is arrested by Scotland Yard. He's shipped off to the asylum that he spent time in as a youth. And is tortured, basically. Yeah. This is pre-Freud, right?
Freud hadn't come to his great prominence yet, but Freud was active at this time.
Right. So, as I understand, Freud's prominence came like 1910-ish. Yeah. Whereas this is 1890. Okay, yeah. In that neighborhood. So, the mental health care at this point is not ideal. Right?
No.
So he's basically tortured. He's chained up and then repeatedly dunked into an ice bath while a sadistic doctor is like, "Oh, we're gonna make you better," ha ha ha, and twirls his mustache. And he has visions that are possibly due to his madness. He has visions that are possibly due to the curse because he sees things such as the boy werewolf who infected his father, which he has never himself seen. So he's having visions that are attributable to the curse itself. And the passage of time is illustrated by the phases of the moon. So the phases of the moon change. You see him move over the screen while these things are happening. So the passage of time is illustrated by that too. So it's the most surreal and nightmarish sequence through the movie. That's good stuff. I like that a lot.
I agree. I mean, to me, like the way that I was kind of thinking about how this movie shakes out for me is like it is at its most successful for me when it is a horror movie. It is at its least successful for me when it is an action movie.
100%.
Yeah. When it indulges in the imagery that it, that's part and parcel of the werewolf mythos, I'm on board. I'm in it. It's just that when it goes stupid, it really loses me.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean...
Do you have anything else positive to say here? Because we keep bleeding into...
Yes. And I don't mean to keep doing that. It's just, this is such a mixed bag for me.
Yeah.
The last thing that I wanted to say that's like a definite positive to me is just, I really liked the werewolf vision. Like, so as Lawrence goes deeper and deeper into lycanthropy, like as he's infected and is recovering from the bite, he has this sort of like sparkling, like the moonlight kind of filters down and sparkles on everything, and it's like quite beautiful. And I really liked the contrast of, like, I mean, again, to bring up like Anne Radcliffe's Beauty sleeping in the lap of horror, like that's like it feels very gothic to me. Like, yes, being a werewolf means that you lose control of yourself, you enact horrible violence on people around you, you can't control it. But the way that he sees the world is like gorgeous at the same time. And like, I don't know, I just found it really interesting. I liked that. I appreciated that, like, something was allowed to be beautiful, even if it was cold and terrifying at the same time.
Sure.
So that was just a nice visual moment. But yeah, that's most of the stuff I wanted to talk about here. And I will say, like, it sounds like I'm not praising this movie very much. There are things about it I really like. It's just that everything is sort of moderated by the failings of the movie in my mind. Yeah,
sure.
Anything else you wanted to make note of?
No, I think we should get right into what's not working.
Let's do it. Okay, can I take first?
Sure.
One? What the hell is going on with Benicio del Toro's performance? It was baffling me the whole time. Yeah. And I really like him as an actor, so I wanted to like him in the role. And I read in the trivia, like, he really fought for this role and
it was
stayed
a passion
with the
project
film.
for him.
Yeah. So I'm like, why do you look like you're about to fall asleep?
Well, Benicio del Toro does kind of just look like that. He's a sleepy-looking guy.
It's true. But the performance to me just really lacked a lot of energy.
Yeah. I think... Yeah, there was a lot of... I hear you. I think he's doing as well as he can, but... I think there was just a lack of a clear vision with this movie. What's the idea here? Is he insane? Is he debauched? Like, I think there are times when he's really charismatic. So, I mean, in a scene that I cut in my revision, I'll go ahead and say. So the first that we meet of him when he's hanging out backstage with the actors after he's performed, I think he's really charismatic at that moment.
Sure.
Like, I think he's got it there, but it feels like there was no clear idea behind, like, what do people want from him.
And like that, the scene that's adjacent to that where he's on stage performing Shakespeare, dreadful. I thought he was dreadful. And I couldn't tell if that was on purpose. Like, I couldn't tell if it was like, oh, like he's kind of a hack, but he's sort of muscling his way through. Yeah,
so that obviously is not Shakespeare in the way that Anthony Hopkins would probably perform it, but that was kind of, without context, I was like, I don't know. I could see that working. It's just a different like when we think of Shakespeare, we tend to think of people with gravitas and really resonant voices. Think Ian McKellen, somebody who's got a real timbre to their voice, right? So they're going to lift their hand to the air, and out will come their bassy tones, and they'll give it. Where it doesn't have to be that. So I didn't necessarily think that was bad. It was just like I don't know how to judge this out of context.
True. That's a good way of thinking about it, because I was just like, question marks when I saw that.
Yeah.
Because, even if obviously there are a million different ways to perform the same scene, but I was just like, nothing about this is arresting
Sure.
me.
Well, I mean, in universe, it seems like he's popular.
Yeah. Yeah. He's like a super famous, sought after actor. So I'm like, that's not showing me that. But, again, maybe if I saw the entire performance,
it would
I
work,
don't know.
yeah.
Maybe.
Right.
Maybe.
It is a little distracting because I don't know how to read this. Yeah, I hear you on that.
The other thing that bothered me then also is just that like his role or his profession of actor never really matters to the movie.
Yeah. So there's one moment where it's referred to because or there's a couple actually. So it's referred to by the inspector, and he sees it as evidence potentially of him being insane because he's like, oh, you're an actor, you inhabit a bunch of other roles. Like this is the profession that an insane person would have.
Yeah,
which,
but like
okay,
it's always
sure,
other characters invoking it.
Right, and the other example, of course, is his father bluffing, chasing away the villagers, saying that Singh is atop the roof with the repeating rifle, which he said, you're not the only person who can act, basically.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's
but
true.
again, that's not Benicio. That's
Sure.
others. I was just like, what? Strange. This is strange.
Yeah, I mean, I don't. I hear you. I think that the acting thing, him being an actor, like I kept that, but as it exists here, it's a kind of a complicating force because the werewolf itself, I think, is like the idea of a werewolf. It's rich for metaphor. There's a lot of different directions you could take that. So you could take it as, especially if you think about it in the Victorian era. So you think of it as being a change in the body, like say puberty, for instance. That would be an obvious one. Like something happened, your body growing a bunch of hair in weird places you didn't know about, right? I mean, there's metaphor there. It could be base impulses.
The sublimated self.
Emerging, right? So the Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde story would be an example of that. That's an actual Victorian story, whereas this is not. It's done
or
afterward.
Picture of
but,
Dorian Gray.
Sure. I mean, there's like, it could be that, right? Well... Okay, so madness would be another one the movie tries to flirt with. Anyway, so it complicates, like say the base impulses emerging. Well, his life as we see it before he goes on this adventure, before he's brought back to Blackmore via train, he seems to have something of a debauched lifestyle as it is. I mean, he's a little bit low-key when we meet him, but he's there.
Being an actor, especially like for like popular stages, it's super disreputable in the Victorian period.
Exactly. So, it's one thing if he's like a mild, he's an accountant, right? Yeah. Right. He has a low key life and he always does the right thing. And then the night comes and he goes and his violent impulses emerge. Like there's a way to do that. So his acting, like okay, so he's already nuts. That's kind of what you or thinking when you meet him, right? So that complicates or that inhibits you engaging with that version of the story, which okay, fine, it doesn't have to be about that, but then what is it, right? What's the metaphor here?
Yeah, well, and on that note, I mean, to me, it feels like this movie has very little to say about anything.
Right. Sure.
It's just kind of a general melange of tropes of Victorian literature.
Yeah.
I wish it had something
depth.
to say.
Yeah. And there's another one. I completely agree with that. This is not Victorian literature, but I was thinking of Wuthering Heights. Because they make really very little of it, but this guy's half Romani.
Yeah. Sure.
His mother's Romani.
Sure. So he
as
could,
is his brother.
Yeah. He could
though his
kind
brother
of,
doesn't look that way, and he does.
Right.
I mean, if you're casting Benicio del Toro in a movie that's set in Victorian England, and he comes in and he has Benicio del Toro's accent, I guess he has an American accent. He is somewhat doing an accent that's different from his own. I did see a brief interview with him, and his accent, he's Puerto Rican by birth, so he has an accent that's not quite the accent that you see on screen here. But like, if you're doing that, if you're the only guy who's walking around talking like him, and you walk around, he's the only guy who really looks like him.
Right.
What effect does that have on the story? Well, apparently none.
And I really wish that it did. I
Yeah.
mean, because they sort of pay lip service to exploring that he is of mixed race and has a complicated sort of identity. But it really just fades away. Like, you know, if the movie had kept tugging on the thread of like distrust of Romani travelers or something, like that could have been really interesting. But I feel like it kind of takes the path of least resistance. And some of the stuff that is there only feels like it's there because Benicio del Toro is your lead actor.
Right.
And they have to account for, like, why does he look and sound different?
Yeah, and I think the Romani are a presence in the original movie.
That's true.
I think
They
that was
are.
part of it.
It just feels almost tacked on, which is strange because it was probably built from the ground up with the Romani characters there. So I don't know. But I was like, there's something that you could say, but you're not saying it.
Yeah, and it's yeah, and that whole stuff, everything to do with Lawrence is troubled.
It's weak.
He has no real character arc. He doesn't grow. He doesn't change. And changes literally in that he isn't a Wolfman and then he is, right? Yeah,
Right.
There's that kind of change, but all of that feels external. There's not a real change in his motivations.
Right.
Like,
Because as you say, like anything where you transform, anything with the Wolfman specifically is so load bearing for like other valences. So it just you feel that absence when there's just nothing more that the movie is trying to say.
Yeah, so there's no comment on the historical period, really. There's no comment on so it's not, the movie doesn't have a point of view. It doesn't have anything to say about the historical period or human nature or something.
Yeah.
And the character stuff isn't sufficiently strong because the way that the character changes is all external. So he's a man, then he's a wolf man, then he dies. So the everything to do with the character is kind of an external pressure. He does eventually realize that his father killed his mother. So there's a realization because he, I guess, suppressed this memory from when he was young. But that doesn't really work. Like it doesn't impact us, the audience, at all. Because the movie doesn't really linger on his youth in the asylum.
No.
There's a passing mention of it.
And or his relationship with his brother. Even,
yeah,
his
so
mother.
there's no implication prior to that his memories were altered while he was there until the character himself realizes it. So it doesn't really land.
There are lines that suggest that Sir John, Anthony Hopkins' character, was like a tyrant and an abuser as they were growing up, and that's really underbaked.
I think we should pivot to talking about Sir John as well.
Sure.
Because I think that is another way in which they miss the mark. That I think it treats him, the movie does itself a disservice because they treat him as having been cruel before he turns into a werewolf. So when they have their little meeting by the waterfall, Gwen and Lawrence do, and he's like, yeah, my brother and I, we used to hide here from my father because he was such an asshole. We had to go hide. This is our hiding spot. Well, okay. I mean, if you're going to do that, then him being a werewolf and turning bad, there's no tragedy for that character. Like him doing that, like, okay, so he was an asshole and then he turned into an asshole. great.
Right.
Like nothing's happened. He's now supernatural, but a cruel man now is cruel in a different way.
Right.
Like nothing's really that different for him, and it's not a tragic thing anymore.
Yeah.
So we had a good man, or at least an okay man, suddenly have violent impulses, and what a horrible thing that is that this person has had. That's gone from the story now.
Well, and I think like if this were a subtle movie or a movie made with a lot of emotional nuance, there's still a journey to explore of like, okay, this person's cruel in the sense that maybe they're emotionally withholding, they're cold, they're distant, or they're, they are an imperfect parent or even an abusive parent. But that's very mundane cruelty.
Right.
So then to explore like how does the massive strength and the sort of overwhelming passion of the werewolf transform mundane cruelty into something supernatural? You could do that. And when you have a performer like Anthony Hopkins, you could probably pull something off that's fairly grounded and subtle.
Yeah.
But they don't. And like, okay, I wrote down a list of questions that I had about characters' motivations.
Okay.
And, Sir John's stuff is part of that. I'm just going to read them out.
All of them, or Sir John's?
I'll read all of them, but I know we're mostly talking about Sir John at the moment. Why does Lawrence return to Blackmore in the first place? Why do Lawrence and Gwen fall in love? Why does Sir John kill Ben? Or Sing, really? Why does Sir John let Gwen leave after killing his own child to keep her there in Talbot House? Why does Gwen ride around looking for that one specific Romani woman after reading an encyclopedia article about lycanthropy? Why does Maleva save Lawrence to begin with, despite knowing that his lycanthropy cannot be cured? But there's so much like sloppy character.
Why
work.
is anybody doing anything that they're doing?
What?
Yeah.
And I feel like there's a sort of tautological answer. It's like, so the movie can happen.
Right.
But when the movie's happening, all you have are questions about why people are doing what they're doing. It's nuts. It's totally nuts.
Yeah.
I just don't like, and I think I mentioned earlier, I don't really love the way the movie mobilizes Sir John, even though I like some of his actual like scenes. Like, he makes this comment like, oh, well, I knew that once Gwen and Ben married, they would leave, and I couldn't have that. I'm like, why? You don't seem to give a shit about anyone.
Right.
Why does it matter to you if they leave? If this is some kind of like pack thing, why is any of this happening in the first place? Why would you kill one of them rather than let them leave? I just don't understand this character. I'm curious to know.
Yeah, which he goes on to say at or prior to that, he says, "I'm quite dead," which is him saying, like, yeah, after your mother died, like, yeah, I gave up, I disassociated, which, okay, fine, but your timeline's off if you're going to do that. You need to be quite dead after the son is dead. Like, that needs to be the moment where you really check out, like, are you dead or are you not? Is the beast in control? That.
And then why act like such a freaking creep to the Emily Blunt character? You've got no tie to her at this point.
There's a line, it's easy to not catch it because he says, it's just a quick passage, but he's like, oh, I knew that she would take Ben away from me, but he switches up the topic, like the subject of the sentence. He's like, I knew that he would take Gwen away from me. So it's easy to miss it, actually, which I don't know what to make of that. Why the possessiveness of her?
I registered that, but I really didn't feel that the movie had done any kind of legwork to suggest, like, oh, like, it's the wolf's passion that, maybe he desires her or desires to dominate her or something.
Yeah.
So much, again, that you would kill your own child.
Right.
I don't know. I was just like, this is...
And eat him, in part. Yeah.
It's a little bit incomprehensible.
Yeah, and that's one issue with, you see it with Sir John, but what is the curse of the werewolf exactly? I mean, is it a corrupting force, or does it only exist when the moon strikes? Like, what?
Right.
You only get I mean, you need clarity on something like this. Like, you can have it. It's okay for it to be somewhat ambiguous, but you only have 2 examples of werewolves that you actually see in this movie. So you have Sir John and then of Lawrence, right? These are your 2 instances. So is he cursed, and that's why he's acting this way? Like, does this change things for him? We need some clarity there that we're just not getting.
It's like, does becoming a werewolf A, make you do the things that you're desperate not to do, or B, make you do the things that you actually secretly wanted to do all along?
Right.
And it's like the movie does not know.
Yeah.
You know, and maybe the suggestion is that it depends on the temperament of the person. You know, you're going to be violent no matter what. The cruel man will enjoy being violent. The fundamentally kind man will not. But I'm like, again, the movie doesn't nail it down.
And since you only have 2 examples, you know, if there were 10 werewolves walking around, you can see, like, okay, this person does this person does that. You know, you can sort of see how things operate on a grade, you know. But not in this case. You need clarity.
Oh, God.
Yeah.
Can I talk about, this is a little bit different, but it's something that really bothered me. Mm-hmm. The lazy invocation of Jack the Ripper.
Oh, sure.
So Aberline, the inspector from the London Metropolitan Police / Scotland Yard, was a real guy. Like, he was the real chief investigator on the Ripper case.
Right.
I was like, get that shit out of here. Get it out of here, unless you have something to say about it. Like, if this is, you know, if this movie, from a zoomed out point of view, is about Victorians coalescing ideas about madness, degeneracy, violence against women, whatever, you can have it. If it's not saying anything, and if it's not really about anything, you can't have it. It really, honestly irritated me so much. Because I personally, I'm very interested in the Ripper case, and just like how it takes a sort of cross section of Victorian culture and like burgeoning forensic science and the study of forensics, and like it's a fascinating way to learn about that time period, and like ideas about criminality, justice, and like detection, you know. I really, really, really didn't care for it. You know, have something to say, have some parallel to draw or to disprove or to suggest and then undermine. I was like, what are we doing here? Again, that like really was part of what made me feel like this was like just a big Campbell's chunky soup of like Victorian stories. But hollow, you know, like just empty calories. That bugged the heck out of me.
Interesting.
Yeah.
All right.
Oh, well.
I hear you. No, that didn't trouble me, but I can understand why you would be. I mean, this is a real guy, and there are real people who were murdered, so...
Awfully.
Yeah.
Awfully murdered.
Right.
Horrible things that happened to these women.
Sure.
So I was just like... I mean, and I think my attitude towards this is the same as it is about anything else. Have a reason for what you're doing. You know,
Sure.
All writing should be deliberate from start to finish, from tip to tail. And so just to see and be like, hey, you remember, Jack the Ripper, I was like, come on. Yeah. I think that's like the big stuff that was really bugging me. Well, no, there's a couple of other things, but I've been hogging the floor. So are there things that you wanted to talk about?
Yeah, I got a couple other things. So we talked about Lawrence, we talked about Sir John. I'd like to talk about Gwen.
Yeah.
That romance is a dud for me. So Lawrence wants to bang his dead brother's fiance. That's a problem. I could see that as being period accurate, I will admit. Though that's not the kind of attention to historical detail I think that we're clamoring for, is it?
Well, I'm even fine with it in terms of like, this is my repressed urge. I deeply desire this person I shouldn't.
That, sure, if you wanted to take it the werewolf curse that way, that's something. But you know, the only real interaction they have that's like, friendly is them skipping stones briefly.
And it felt so embarrassing.
Yeah. Right.
Oh, show me how you skip the stones. Oh, okay. Here's how you skip the stones.
Yeah, and it's annoying because that happens. They throw the rocks, but she doesn't have any character beyond the circumstances of what's happening.
Oh, it's all like circumstantial and like made for convenience.
She's underbaked for sure, which I don't have a problem. I don't have that much of a problem with her being underwritten ultimately because, this is it's a movie. It's about the characters that it's about. And so you have characters who are less developed based on their screen time and importance to the plot. That's fine. Like, I don't think that she needs to be a super duper robust character. I don't think this movie needs to be I don't think her character needs to be strong enough that you could move the pieces around and it's it could be a movie called The Wolfwoman starring her, right? Mm-hmm. She doesn't need to be that developed, but if you're going to have a romance between him and her, then yes, she does. You need more from her.
Yeah, especially if she's sort of the point person for Lawrence. Like if she is the primary human interest of the story.
Right, because he can't have any normal interaction with his father because of how distant he is. So you need to have somebody that your main character can speak with.
Well, and it signals like, like human warmth and kindness and goodness.
Yeah.
She also, I felt like she was like this like canker that I couldn't stop kind of scratching. Not her, not Emily Blunt, because I don't have a problem with her performance.
Yeah.
I just mean like her shape, her presence in the story.
Yeah.
Like I was like, okay, like why is she working in an antiques and curiosities shop? Like, is that hers? Is that
if you
her
look, I actually was
family's?
looking for that. So as she walks into it from the outside, and the signage above the door is Conliffe. Yeah. So it is her family's store.
Yeah, but you never see anyone else in there.
But that's a blink and you miss it.
So I'm like,
detail.
Does it belong to her? Has she inherited it? Does she merely work there with her parents or other family?
Sure.
Like, it raised so many questions. So many questions for me. And also things like just little details, little historical details that really didn't pass muster. Like, why would a Londoner like Gwen be really, really good at riding horses? And why would she, again, a respectable professional woman of some kind, not that we know exactly what kind, why would she be riding horseback solo across the English countryside rather than, say, hiring a carriage or taking the train, which was really well established at this point? And we know this because Lawrence takes the train. So it really, I was like, what are we doing here?
Sure.
What's happening with this character? And I think like they just were like, oh, well, what if a hottie with like big bouncing blowout curls rode on a horse so we could watch her hair bounce around?
I'm fine with most of that stuff, I'll admit. We differ on that one. She doesn't take the train because she's looking for the Romani. So she's going from horseback to like going up to random groups. Hey, I'm looking for the Romani. I'm looking for Maleva. So she can't do that via train. She's not trying to go to the Blackmore estate. She's trying
carriage,
Sure.
She's an unescorted, unaccompanied, respectable woman.
Sure.
I'm not saying that's how it should be. I'm just saying, like, she's
in the context of it.
Yeah.
I'm fine with most of that because she's in this case in this construction she's going to save the man she loves, and so she's on a mission to stop somebody from. She's dealing with supernatural forces. Like, okay, I'm fine with us going off of script, somewhat.
I guess. I think if more had been done to make her feel like a full person, those little things would probably bother me a lot less.
Sure. But I mean, my big problem with her is that she's the only one who apparently can kill the werewolf, because a silver bullet is not enough to kill a werewolf in this movie. The silver bullet has to be fired, or the silvered weapon has to give the killing blow, but it has to come from somebody who loves the werewolf.
Unless you kick them in a fire and chop their head off.
Right.
In which case, love not required.
Indeed. Unless he does love his father, which is
I think that's
maybe
a question.
That's a question.
That's a fair question you could ask.
But yeah, so the romance, get that the fuck out of this movie. This is not, that doesn't need to be there.
Like, keep it, but like make it matter. Do anything, you know? Like, I'm happy to watch a movie that's about, you know, your secret night transformation. That's all about like illicit urges and impulses.
Yeah,
that's
a way
great.
you could take. That's not
fine.
the direction I took this.
That is more the direction I took it.
Sure,
but
yeah, that's a valid, like a Jekyll and Hyde kind of story.
Yeah,
that would be a perfectly cromulent direction to take it. My other big thing. So I'm bringing back up something that you alluded to in the positive remarks. This movie is more successful when it's a horror movie, and it's less successful when it's an action movie.
Yes.
So the best example of that for me is the first sequence of the werewolf attacking the Romani camp. It's much too much. The scene is really chaotic because Lawrence shows up. We're in a brand new environment. So we go into this encampment, and so we're like, okay, who are these people? What do they want? What do they like? You're getting used to the environment that you're in. Brand new setting, right? Brand new setting, new types of characters. So we walk in. We're looking for the information that Lawrence is trying to get. Tell me about my brother, right? That's why he's there. But as soon as he arrives, the villagers show up. So, he goes into the hut with, or I guess it's like the covered wagon. He goes in the covered wagon where Maleva is. Mm-hmm. But they really talk almost none. Mm-hmm. So, like, tell me about my brother. That's basically the exchange that they have. But then the villagers show up. And these are the same villagers who he met in the tavern, who were saying, it's the dancing bear who killed those people. No, it's not the bear. It's the lunatic. No, it's not that. It's a werewolf. No, it's not that, right? So they have that big exchange. They show up. We're here to kill that dancing bear. Which we meet a CG dancing bear at this point. He doesn't dance. But he's like, the bear's like, no, not me. I'm confused and scared.
Thankfully, we don't have to watch the bear die.
This movie is surprisingly kind to animals. No animals die in this movie.
Yeah.
I noticed that. Yeah. This elk or deer that is chained up to lure in the werewolf, it gets away. The dancing bear gets away.
No dogs
No
are
horses.
killed.
Samson the dog doesn't die. Yeah. Anyway, that's a digression. So it was like, oh, there's a dancing bear. But the villagers show up. Then the police show up and start chastising the villagers. And then just as quickly, people start losing their limbs because a werewolf is secretly attacking the camp. And so it's a big chaotic scene, but all this happens within like 30 seconds. It's really fast. You're taking in so much information at once. So like it breaks down into chaos really fast. Then Lawrence starts acting like the main character, right? So he comes out like, oh, it's me. I'm the lead in this movie. So I have to grab a gun and try and save the day for some reason. This is not a side of his personality we've so far seen. And the music is complicating the whole thing because the music sounds like Batman.
I don't like the music.
Yeah,
in this movie.
it's really like it's dark tinged, but it sounds like it would go with the Tim Burton's Batman. Like it's a big exciting action sequence. Yeah. This doesn't work at all. It's a big adventure sequence, like a big adventure movie. Imagine a horror version of that. That could be great.
Yeah.
That could be great if you slowed it down big time, take away the big jaunty action adventure score, let characters stop trying to shoot every which way, let them be horrified for a while, slow down the introduction of what's happening, let us get acclimated to this setting. This could be your horror sequence. That could be your primary horror sequence in this movie. And instead, it's a mess.
Well, because this moment's really important, too. This is the moment where Lawrence sustains the werewolf bite. This is where his world changes. And, like, going through something like that, you know, just imagine, like, being in a camp lit by firelight, filled with people just milling around, minding their own business. And a wolf
Romani
beast,
people, it's to you as Lawrence, and to you, the American audience member, this is effectively a foreign culture. So you're going in, you don't know what the people are like and how you're going to interact with them.
Well, and then imagine some creature, some beast that you don't even see clearly starts killing people like openly in the crowd. Like that alone changes your life forever.
Right.
So the movie, I think, is just like so eager. It's over eager. It crams too much in, and it doesn't like sit with how awful something like that would be.
Sure. And there's lots of violence on display. I mean, you see limbs flying and everything else, but it's so quick, it just doesn't matter.
Well, and it's like a complaint that I have, and I understand why this happens, but like a lot of the British villagers who are there, like, you know, being like, blah, Romani, get out of here, blah, blah, blah. Like, they're cannon fodder. They're made to die.
Right.
So you're not meant to care about them, but I think we really need to care about the loss of life in this movie. Or, you know, if you wanted to make some statement on, like, Victorian ideas about race and ethnicity, that's another thing you could do, but all the same, I don't really feel like life is all that precious in this movie.
Sure. Yeah. The werewolf kills a lot of people in this movie. A lot of people. Yeah. The body count in this one's really high.
It's high.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then, like, I had the same issue with the later sequence in the movie where he's literally, like, an American werewolf in London.
I didn't make that connection, but that's true. Yeah, he is literally. That's funny.
Yeah, I mean, culturally American, I suppose.
Yeah, kind of.
You know, with an asterisk, but it plays. But like when he escapes from the asylum, that's in the heart of London, and he just like runs around on the rooftops and is like killing people, you know, in buses and things. I'm like. This is dumb. This is really dumb. In fact, I was like shocked when we actually went to London. And I was like, uh-oh, I don't know that this is a good choice that you've just made for so many reasons. But
so I like that sequence, but I like it better in contrast to the horror version of the first sequence. Because that's sort of the thing. Like, okay, we're experiencing... Like, horror subjects are always in the periphery somewhere. It's in the Gothic castle. It's in the remote village. It's in the Carpathian Mountains. Whatever, right? You know, it's somewhere else. And so it's kind of interesting. Like, what do you do if you... What does it look like if you take a monster and you drop it in the middle of a metropolis? What happens when Jason takes Manhattan?
Are you saying this is just a remake of Jason Takes Manhattan?
Yeah, that's just what I'm saying.
The 1941
So, yeah,
version.
there's interest to have, like, okay, so we're taking our remote monster and we're transporting him into a setting he shouldn't be in. And, it looks like that.
I agree that there's potential for that. I really do. And I think, you know, you could really be quite playful with something like that, and it could be horrifying because, you know, London had such a high density of citizens as well. So, like, you know, werewolf could walk 2 blocks and kill 300 people or something. But what makes that work less for me is the prior invocation of Jack the Ripper. I feel like that should be in the back of our minds, but don't literally say it out loud. You know, like, and like slashing attacks and anonymous killings and like street killings and stuff, like that was a thing in Victorian London. But again, I want it to be more atmospheric than explicit, if that makes sense.
Sure.
I think it was just rendered stupidly. And if it were more cleverly done, I think I could appreciate it more.
Sure.
He drinks from the Thames. I have been complaining about this all week, and I don't plan on stopping.
He's a stupid werewolf,
soon.
so he's drinking the poopy water. Whatever.
Oh, God. But that was genuinely the nastiest part of this movie for me. And the fact that he washes his face in the Thames water as a man.
Sure.
It's like, no.
I have one other thing about this movie that is that is annoying to me.
Yeah.
There's some of the dialogue gets on my nerves. 2 things about it. One is that they're like, there's no cure for lycanthropy, but they present it as a curse. Right. Curses aren't cured. They might be broken.
Right.
But you cure a disease. It's not a disease, it's a curse. So the Romani especially will use that phrase, which I don't like that construction at all. So internal consistency I tend to appreciate.
Yeah.
The other is the movie is rather cute man to wolf evoking language. That's all that separate or keeps us well in this dog eat dog world.
Oh
Shit
God.
like that.
Yeah.
Stop that. Don't do that. In the one other example that comes to mind is in the sequence backstage at the theater. The nature of man is ever shifting. Stop doing that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Don't do that. There are a few examples of evoking wolves and dog eat dog and that kind of stuff. Don't do that.
I mean, even the Shakespeare pull, like, oh, there are more things on heaven and earth than in your cold philosophy, or I can't remember the exact quote because
I don't think they say that in this movie.
I thought they did.
I don't believe
I
so.
had a recollection of that, but maybe I'm crazy. Maybe I'm crazy.
Oh.
Yeah, no, I agree. Don't be cute.
Yeah.
Don't be cute. It also, and maybe this is just me, but it seemed so very obvious that Sir John was the werewolf that I kept waiting for it to be a red herring. Did you also get that?
Well, the other thing is that he is observing the moon through the telescope, but it looks like the full moon at the time. I had to go back and rewatch the movie, and I realized it's like the day before the full moon, so it's ever so slightly not full. But the movie tricks you into thinking, oh, well, he can't be the werewolf because he's looking at the full moon right now. Mm-hmm. So it doesn't trick you in a way that's successful. It tricks you in a way that makes you feel like got you on a technicality.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, ready to get into it?
I think so. But first, I actually need to assess a mysterious puncture wound on my shoulder, but then I'll be back with my revision.
Okay. Well, I'm going to go watch a performance from a dancing bear, and then I'll be back with my revision. Okay, so me first. So the first thing I am changing, I'm changing the opening slightly. So the movie actually begins with a recitation of a poem. That poem appeared apparently in the original 1941 movie. I'm just getting rid of that, so we're not opening there. So instead, my version of the movie opens in Blackmore in 1891 when the brother is out in the woods looking for whoever's out there and is killed by the Wolfman. So that's my actual opening sequence. So then a man is next seen on a train headed towards Blackmore. He is seen reading a letter from Gwen Conliffe, who is heard in voiceover, which introduces her as the fiancée of his brother Ben, who has gone missing for weeks. An elderly man takes his seat in the train cabin and stares at the man with the letter. After the man with the letter greets him awkwardly, the elderly man asks if he is Lawrence Talbot. Knowingly, the man admits that he is indeed. The elderly man produces a theater program with an artist's sketch of him on the cover and says that he saw him perform the previous night, himself doing a quick "Alas, poor Yorick," and remarking that it is a delightful twist of fate that the two should be seated together. He asks for an autograph, which Lawrence agrees to courteously, though the elderly man asks him for a pen. When Lawrence reaches into his coat for it, he drops a photograph, which the elderly man collects from the floor, observing correctly that its subject is Lawrence's mother, though Lawrence explains that his mother died not long after the photograph was taken. The elderly man observes that she is Romani. Lawrence does not reply, unsure of the reaction that will follow, though the man is complimentary, remarking that they would have much to teach us if we would but learn. He takes Lawrence's hand, to his surprise, and observes his palm with a knowing gaze. The stranger then offers him a cane, which secretly contains a silvered blade, though Lawrence refuses its offer. The man sleeps and, upon awaking in Blackmore, finds that the cane has been left behind by the stranger. So some context, the director's cut, we did allude to this. The director's cut has him meet Gwen Conliffe backstage. We see the brief performance of Hamlet, Alas Poor Yorick, that whole speech where he holds aloft the skull. I'm taking it back to how it appears in the theatrical cut, partially, which is that he just takes the train to Blackmore. Though I am incorporating the element from the director's cut, which is that he meets Max von Sydow on the train and is given the silvered cane. So I am actually keeping the silvered cane, though I will make its presence more important. Yeah. So the other thing, in the original movie, he's not actually named for a long time. Nobody actually says that his name is Lawrence Talbot for the longest time.
That's funny.
Yeah. Eventually, someone refers to him and like, oh, our main character's name is Lawrence. Got it. So it's Anyway, that element is there. So we're still introducing that he's an actor, and this elderly man in this construction alludes to fate. Which is kind of a through line in the original movie. So that is being introduced more. Like, what a glorious twist of fate that we should, that having just seen you last night, I shall meet you again. Anyway, so it continues on. The man arrives at Talbot Hall, a majestic if decrepit estate outside of Blackmore. He is briefly accosted by Samson, a dog, before being greeted by the mansion's keeper, his father. Lawrence's absence has been extended, as his father mentions wondering what his son looked like. Lawrence mentions that Gwen Conliffe sent a letter to inform him of his brother's absence, but his father mentions dispassionately that his arrival has come too late. His brother's corpse was discovered in a ditch the previous morning. A Sikh man joins the duo and addresses the senior Talbot as Sir John. This man is Singh, Sir John's manservant, and he explains that Miss Conliffe is also present at the estate. This is the same, but it's just recontextualized, because this will be the first time that they will actually meet Gwen Conliffe. They have not met at this point. So that is otherwise... it is actually technically the same as it appears in the movie. So, I guess I'm pointing that out because in the director's cut introduces continuity errors. Because in the rest of the movie, he refers to, I've come because Gwen Conliffe has sent me this letter. I don't know what's going on with my brother. Whereas in the first scene where the two of them meet, he actually refuses her visit. So she comes and she's like, I know about, your brother, and you have these imaginary demons. It introduces his mental illness, or the idea that he did have it, struggle with it at one time. But later on, we're talking about this letter. So there are continuity errors that come from that. So we're solving those two. I don't hold that against the movie, really, because they wouldn't have been present in the original cut. That's the studio's fault, kind of after the original movie. But anyway, so Lawrence heads into the village to investigate the body. That's all the same. So that's a pretty good sequence. The Talbot family connection to the Romani, all of that stuff is mentioned there. We like that stuff. So here we move on to Gwen joining the father and son for dinner, though she does not linger long, given the tension between the two. The breaking point for Gwen being a hostile remark from Sir John towards Lawrence, in which he says that he believed that Lawrence would never return, and that he would leave the family in much the same way as his mother did. We're also cutting the weird line that is given here, that Sir John mentions that he doesn't understand his son's profession. Sir John later quotes Percy Shelley. I think he probably understands what acting is. So we're also cutting some of the stuff about the natural man, like that big, you're the cultured man and I'm the natural man. Like that is a weird, it's more like what is being said here, because is Lawrence the debauched, vulgar guy, and what is Sir John? Like, he's too erudite to be the hunter. Like, it's too complicated to take on. You're sort of contrasting things that don't wind up mattering. You don't linger much with him being like the gentleman hunter type. Like, it's too much. So it's kind of distracting for our purposes here. I think you could do something with that, but it's just not the direction that I took this. So I'm cutting that for my purposes, we'll say. So anyway, Lawrence asks about his mother's suicide, wondering why she did it, though Sir John only explains that she struggled in life and lost. Lawrence mentions that he found a strange medallion amongst Ben's belongings. Sir John explains that it represents an Eastern saint who was a Romani, and that Ben was the village's negotiator with that group. Sir John and Lawrence recite a poem by Percy Shelley over the moon, which the two of them observe via telescope. That evening, Lawrence approaches Gwen, introduces himself properly, and apologizes for his conduct with his father, and turns over Ben's items, which she receives gratefully. She mentions that he is not as she imagined. He says that he is not the gibbering lunatic he imagines his father likely made him out to be. Now seeing him as a trustworthy figure, she asks him to find out what happened to Ben, which he promises to do. Investigating his former childhood bedroom, he experiences a flashback to him and Ben waking in the night, only to discover his mother dead by suicide in his father's arms. So, the main thing that's happening in this section here is that we're bringing forward mental illness. That's an important, more important element of the story in my revision here. So that is going to be the werewolf. That's the metaphor that we're chiefly dealing with. And there are other elements that are going to be contributing to that and enriching it. But that's the main thing that my version of the werewolf is going to be wrestling with. And it sounds like, as you mentioned, yours is more like repressed urges, which is like the Jekyll and Hyde sort of version, which is a perfectly reasonable way to take that. This is the way I went with it. So we continue. Ben's funeral is the following morning. Lawrence finds Gwen in the woods near a waterfall, which was a favorite area for Ben and Lawrence to play in their youth. Gwen observes that Sir John is a distant figure, and Lawrence replies that he wouldn't know. As she likely already knows, he was put in an asylum for a year after his mother's suicide, after which he was raised by an aunt in America. She receives this information awkwardly, and searching for a reply, Lawrence cuts her off, making small talk and asking where she will go when she departs. Relieved, she mentions that she will return to steward her family's antique store in London. Eventually, Gwen does indeed depart. Despite Sir John's request that Lawrence not go out on the night of the full moon, he heads to the Romani camp to find out the truth. So, a few things here. We're giving some more concrete detail on what actually happened with Lawrence, dealing with his mental illness, that she knows with it. We're also taking out the information of Sir John having been cruel when the two of them were alive, or when the mother was still around, when he still lived there. So we want it to be more tragic that Sir John became a werewolf, that he became a cruel figure.
Mm-hmm.
So he was not an asshole prior. Yeah. Anything else that we're dealing with there? Oh, yeah. Also mentioning the antique store, satisfying your complaint. So that context is given prior.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So he heads to the Romani camp. He is directed to Mileva, apparently a spiritual elder of the group. He asks her what happened to his brother. A domineering figure, Mileva orders him to sit. She tells him that he doesn't look very much like his brother. He says flatly that he takes after his mother. She nods, but says that he doesn't sound like her. He says in a way that is obviously humoring her that he developed his accent in the Americas. Quote, Roma by blood, English by birth, and American by becoming. Have you three peoples, Mr. Talbot? She asks. Puzzled, he looks at her wordlessly. She nods. I see. You have none. With slight irritation, he asks again what happened to his brother. She says that it is a curse. Incredulously, he says, my brother was cursed? She replies, no, that your family is. Before the conversation can continue, a group of local men arrive at the camp, intending to seize the dancing bear, which they blame for the killings. A constable interrupts, and then, as if swallowing the argument whole, darkness consumes the edge of the camp entirely. So we will proceed, but Mileva, we want to make the Romani elder matter more. We want her to have more personality. We want her to know more. We want her to have vision that none of the other characters can access via virtue of her supernatural power. She understands things that nobody else does. We're also lingering on the fact that our lead character is Romani in appearance, at least. I mean, he's Benicio del Toro is not that, but in the construction of the movie, we accept him as being that. Yeah, we want to emphasize him as being an outsider figure, even to the Romani himself. So he may look like them, he doesn't sound like them. He's not culturally like them.
Right.
He's nobody. He's not even really a member of this family. Not really. So we're emphasizing that. So we continue. There is no warning. From the periphery, figures begin to emerge, only to be dragged back into the dark. A scream is cut short. A lantern swings wildly and goes out. The Roma and the locals and the constable find themselves backing instinctively toward the center of the camp, pressing together without meaning to, watching the tree line. Something moves in it. The circle tightens. Lawrence, flashing back to his mother's death in a way he does not understand, panics and flees while everyone else moves back. And the werewolf is on him before he reaches the trees, biting deep into his shoulder amidst a ring of ancient standing stones at the camp's edge. He is saved only when the desperate gunfire of the crowd finally drives the beast off. Mileva, over the protests of other Romani who insist that the bitten are cursed, tends to his wounds and keeps him alive. This is your horror sequence. Cut out the score. No score. Nothing. Just the quiet and the darkness. Unnatural darkness. This is a curse. This is not a concrete action. It's not necessarily that lights are being extinguished. With the werewolf comes the unnatural, right? So the darkness grows darker. You have these things swallow the camp slowly. Have people emerge from the darkness and they're pulled back. Have things be seen, have things be unseen. This is your horror sequence. Take away the dumb action
trappings.
Thing. Let's take away Lawrence being a hero. Lawrence doesn't grab a gun. He runs away. He's scared. He's the most scared. But he doesn't understand why either. Why is he flashing back? What's that about? So, we continue on. Mileva returns home to Talbot Manor. That's all the same. Right, so everything up to the local doctor investigating the wound, that's the same. His interaction with Singh, the Sikh manservant, him having the guns and all that. Sikhs, it's a religious duty for them to remain armed, so that's important to the story. We keep that. So Francis Aberline, Inspector. I like all of that, except for he wants a forensic investigator to inspect the wounds. That never matters. That never actually happens in the movie. And were he to do that, what would come of it? Even if we were to inject that into the story, so the specialist investigating the wounds, I just cut that altogether. But I like the tension between the two of them. I like the performance from Hugo Weaving.
Yeah.
I keep the Jack the Ripper stuff. But madness is important to the story. So perhaps I've overcome your objection in keeping it.
I suspect
perhaps
so.
Not. So we go back to changes. Shortly after, Gwen approaches Lawrence and apologizes for her part in bringing him back to Blackmore. Lawrence tells her not to think in this way. He says, "Had you left after Ben's funeral, never to return, all would have considered your duty fulfilled. Given that your marriage never took place, the name Talbot has not been inflicted upon you. Yet," and he says this while gesturing to Ben's signet ring, which was among the effects returned to her by Lawrence, "you bear it all the same. I am your family so long as you will have me." Gwen is obviously moved, but they are interrupted by the arrival of villagers, who Talbot can hear at unnatural distance, as they suspect him of being a beast. But they are persuaded to leave by Sir John, who bluffs by claiming that Sing is atop the roof with a repeating rifle. So, yeah, we're taking out the romance element, right? Unsurprisingly, given what I said. But her, like, a genuine family bond, a familial bond emerging between the two of them, I think is useful and important, particularly given that if we're dealing with mental illness, like having few connections to others, in his case, by virtue of being culturally nobody, racially nobody, having no family, Sir John having sent him away, these kinds of things. This matters. So him reaching out for a connection, I think, is an important element of dealing with the mental illness theme that we're dealing with. So Gwen attends to the minor wounds he receives in the scuffle and warns him not to think too deeply of the villagers' suspicions, which he cannot help but do. Lawrence begins to experience the heightened senses of a wolf. Thinking that the illness for which he was treated in the asylum as a child is reoccurring, he sends Gwen away, explaining that, in periods of heightened stress, he behaves not like himself, and that he wishes for her not to see him that way. So, in the movie, yeah, he just kind of sends her away, but he's like, "I don't know what's going on. You need to go," right? So, giving that a little more context. Back in the village, locals speak of the arrival of demons, and they fashion silver bullets. I've kept all of that. At the hall, Talbot follows his father to the mother's crypt. Sir John tells Lawrence that he is dead. We're taking away the 4 years element of that. But otherwise, we're keeping that element. So I like that idea, but we're adding a little more. We're perhaps going to later imply a little more recency to it. But otherwise, that sequence, him killing all of those people, that's fine. That's great. I like that we get a good look of the classic Wolfman here. We get the great Rick Baker makeup effects, all of that stuff. He awakens in the tree. His father taunts him. He's sent back to the asylum. And we get to keep that amazing sequence where he has the big flashbacks, the passing of the moon phases, all of that. So, changes continue. In his asylum cell, Lawrence is visited by Sir John. Sir John tells him the truth, that long ago, in his travels hunting in India, the locals directed him to a cave in the mountains, where there lived a strange creature. After climbing and searching for days, Sir John found the cave and the creature there. It was a wild, powerfully strong, feral boy, infected with lycanthropy, who attacked Sir John and bit him. Lawrence suddenly realizes that he saw Sir John kill his mother in his werewolf form, knowledge that he had suppressed from his time in the asylum, a fact which Sir John admits by saying that the beast did it. Sir John told Lawrence that afterwards he locked himself away in the crypt during nights of the full moon, after which he depended on Sing to release him. Oh, we're solving a bit of a... I'll come back to that. However, after Gwen had come and it was clear that she and Ben would leave Talbot Manor, Sir John became drunk and violent, knocking Sing unconscious when he tried to restrain Sir John, after which he passed out drunk in the yard. Having not locked himself in the crypt, Sir John killed Ben and those other 2 villagers. Now intoxicated by the werewolf's immense power, Sir John reveals that he no longer intends to lock up the beast. He then leaves, but not before telling Lawrence that the moon will be full again, and leaving him with a straight razor with which he can kill himself if he so chooses. So, what we're changing, he says that he depended on Singh to lock him up, but later on in the movie, he locks himself up, no problem. Singh doesn't lock him up. He does it to himself.
Yeah.
He depends on Singh to let him out. That's what it is. He needs somebody on the outside to let him out of the crypt. You can a jail cell locks itself if you close yourself into it. That's how that works. You need somebody to let you out. So that was a plot hole that the movie actually had. So we've solved that.
That's funny.
So that's a little thing. Anyway, is that otherwise different? Yeah, here he says, "You killed my mother." He says, "Oh, the beast did it." Right? So in the original movie, Sir John is like, "Yeah, I killed your mother." He says, "The beast did it." So that's the difference. Lawrence takes the opportunity to do so. He bleeds out in his cell. I mean, this is more natural, extending from the original paragraph. He actually attempts to kill himself with a straight razor. That doesn't come up in the original movie. So the straight razor's left there. He doesn't do anything with it. It just vanishes. Lawrence takes the opportunity to try and kill himself. He bleeds out in his cell, which is only discovered as his blood leaks out from under his cell door and into the hallway. However, he regains consciousness. The sadistic doctor tells him that he nearly died, but that his wound was not sufficiently deep. Lawrence realizes in horror that even suicide is not an option for him, at least by conventional means, as the werewolf's immunities persist in his human form. The doctor goes on to say that he was crying for help and that this evening he will give it to him. That night on the full moon, so that's just a scene we've added, basically. Everything will continue on. Him being demonstrated to the crowd of people that he is not, in fact, a werewolf, only for them to horrifyingly reveal that he is a werewolf. That happens as seen. But that's a big, exciting sequence where the wolf is now, an American werewolf is now in London, right? So, I contextualized as a bigger scene, I think that works more because we've had such a small example of that in the past. So it's a big spectacle moment. So we follow on. Changed. The next morning, a now human Lawrence hides from the authorities and waits for Gwen in her family's antique shop. He tells her the truth. Gwen pleads for Lawrence to stay so she can help him, stating that perhaps the Romani could help, but Lawrence refuses, saying that he must get back to Talbot Manor and find his father. The two are interrupted by the arrival of Aberline. She denies that she has seen Talbot, but Aberline searches the shop, by which time Lawrence had already left. He buys an entire stack of newspapers, which show his face and describe his crimes. In the original version, there's a woman who witnesses this whole thing, and the camera really lingers, like she's going to go tell the authorities. Nothing ever happens. It never comes up, so we're cutting that. Gwen goes off on a search via coach, asking for locals for the Romani encampment, which was previously at Blackmore. Lawrence heads to Blackmore on foot. Aberline heads to Talbot Hall with specially crafted silver bullets. In the village, Maleva finds Gwen herself, though she has no good news to share with her. She tells her only to show him that he is not alone in the world. So, no more plot hinging on only the person who loves him can be the one who kills him. Lawrence arrives at Talbot Hall and finds Singh's mutilated and decayed body hanging in the foyer. He removes a key from his corpse. It seemed like Singh had been killed freshly.
What? Yeah.
In the original movie version, but why did that happen at all? Because he'd had opportunities to kill Sir John. If he was going to do that, why was this happening in the way that, the timeline? It's one thing if he's now the unleashed werewolf and he's just killing indiscriminately, if Sir John is. And so he's just indiscriminately killed Singh, who has failed to kill Sir John. Fine.
Or if Singh is the sort of last remnant of Sir John's humanity, and so he decides to polish him off for that reason.
It could be, but I just had it okay, he killed him. So if he's now the unleashed werewolf, so he's doing that now. Fine, great. So his now rotting corpse, having died 28 days ago, is where I had that sort of happen. Back in the village, a Scotland Yard officer reports one of them is missing. I've cut that because there's a dead Scotland Yard officer at Talbot Hall. That doesn't really add anything. So everything that sets that up is now gone. Aberline witnesses Gwen heading to Talbot Hall and pursues her. At this point, I actually imagine her stealing a horse and doing it herself. Sure. So that is more or less, we do introduce something that her riding horseback. Talbot uses the key to access Singh's silver bullets. He tracks Sir John through the house, finding him in the study. I don't have Sir John quoting Luke and playing the piano. So I don't need him there twirling his mustache. Sure. It's changing that context a little. Instead, here's how he appears. He is seated by the fireplace and is clearly drunk. He looks at the clock and remarks that they haven't much time now. Lawrence points the weapon at him. Sir John retorts that it is rude to point a weapon one does not intend to fire. He goes on to call him a coward, a matter he claims to have discussed with Ben often. Rising and moving about, he says that Ben knew the truth that Lawrence was too weak to handle, the truth that put Lawrence in the asylum, and the truth that had Ben in the woods that night to stop him. That the beast was stronger. So what we're changing here, Ben knew that Sir John was a werewolf. Mm-hmm. Lawrence did not, but Ben knew. He then asks if those are Singh's bullets, and he then claims that he and Singh made them together. He continues his drinking. Lawrence yells at his father that Sir John doesn't blame himself as he should, that he thinks that it was the beast's doing that killed his mother and brother, not his own, when they are one and the same. Sir John tells him not to speak of his brother, that he was lost after Lawrence left, and reveals that Lawrence was sent to America not because of Sir John, because of himself, or because of his illness, but because he continuously fled from Talbot Hall, running away, leaving Sir John with no choice. Lawrence retorts that he remembers his responsibility to his brother, and that together they will fulfill it tonight. Sir John angrily taunts him, saying that he is too much of a coward to fire, which Lawrence then does. And impressed, even pleased, Sir John states that he truly didn't think he had it in him, but that he removed the powder from the cartridges after Singh's death, making them useless. Sir John then beats Lawrence with a cane given to Lawrence by the man on the train. With his blows, he taunts him for being weak, fragile, all with the timbre of a wrathful father striking a helpless child. He then turns the cane upside down to strike with a heavier metallic head when Lawrence catches it, removing the hidden blade within and stabbing his father in the heart. Lawrence throws his father's drink into the flames, spreading the fire in an attempt to burn down Talbot Hall. He grabs the blade and points it toward his own heart when he jolts suddenly, dropping the blade, turning toward the window and realizing that he is too late. The moon has risen fully. The transformation takes place before Lawrence is able to complete the act. Gwen arrives, hoping to save Lawrence. When the werewolf attacks her, Aberline bursts in and shoots at him. Aberline is bitten in the fray, and his revolver is thrown out of reach into the ever-increasing flames. Gwen flees, and the werewolf pursues her. Aberline retrieves the silver cane and pursues on foot. Lawrence, as a werewolf, chases Gwen to the overlook above the waterfall. She pleads with Lawrence, whose consciousness faintly recognizes her. As he hesitates, Aberline and his men arrive, and Lawrence turns to look at them. Lawrence, temporarily in control, walks over to Aberline and sticks out his hand. Stunned, Aberline hands over the cane, which burns the werewolf's clawed hands. Giving one last glance to Gwen, he stabs himself in the heart. The wolfman then slumps down weakly and reaches out for her hand. Startled, she shrieks, yet she realizes his hand, arm, face, and then the whole body are reverting to human form. As he lays dying, Lawrence apologizes to Gwen for leaving her alone. Gwen and Aberline watch as Lawrence dies in peace. Aberline then looks at the moon and realizes what will be his inevitable fate. There you go.
The end.
The end.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, this feels so much more cogent to me, while still feeling like the original story for the most part.
Yeah. So what we're dealing with is what I wanted to bring forward. I mean, this is a really bleak take on mental illness. This is a really bleak take on having no family and being racially and culturally on the outside. It's really bleak. But here's the thing. This is a horror movie. Mm-hmm. It's a horror movie set in the Victorian era. Mm-hmm. Mental health care is not available to these people. If you treat lycanthropy as mental illness, think of it as being like bipolar disorder or fits of madness or something. Mm-hmm. You're okay. You're having a good day. And then every so often, you're a lunatic, right? The word lunatic actually being sourced from lunar,
right.
Like thinking that madness would strike on the night of the full moon. Here it does. So madness takes over. What fate is? What do you have? What can happen for you? Well, in this world, nothing. The suicide is the only escape for these characters. Death or suicide. Lawrence or Sir John disassociates. They try to deal with it, but he eventually loses his family because of his madness. And so his consciousness, he dies. So he gives into it because disassociating is the only way out for him.
And not having to reckon with his actions.
Yeah, having killed his wife and having killed his son.
Yeah.
That's the only thing he can do. He can't deal with it. He's drunk. Just as he knows that his family is going to leave, he gets drunk. That's all he can do is check out. Whereas Lawrence is differing in that he's trying to take responsibility. I'm thinking of the modern phrase that you hear sometimes. Your mental illness is not your fault, but it is your responsibility. Mm-hmm. That was kind of the thinking that I had in my mind in dealing with this. That there is nowhere that unfortunately there is no solution.
There's
for him.
simply no framework.
It's a tragedy
for him.
Yeah. It's we're dealing with a period piece, so in this historical context, there's nowhere for this story to go except with it ending in tragedy. These characters have no fate other than death waiting for them.
Well, and there's the Victorian period is rife with so many anxieties about madness or about quote unquote degeneracy or like abnormality, like mental abnormality. It's also an age in which like illness is increasingly like medicalized, if that makes any sense. Like it's the birth of the modern hospital and many kind of proto-modern medical treatments and stuff, including psychotherapy. So it feels appropriately grim for the period to me. Like it feels like it's kind of trafficking in all the right images here.
Sure.
I'm into it.
Yeah.
Love it.
I'm pleased with it. I'm happy with it.
Good, yeah.
Yeah, and I also wanted for Gwen's presence to be the thing. So Gwen is able to connect with Lawrence, and Lawrence is able to connect with her, and this is perhaps the thing that's giving him enough of strength to, like, the support to actually deal with his problems, whereas Sir John can't connect with, he wants to connect with Gwen, but doesn't. And he can't connect with his son. So the support that you have from the outside world, so Lawrence just doesn't have it until this time, but is finally giving him something that he needs to be able to address it too. So it's trying to give her more importance in the story.
Beyond just the sort of token love interest.
Yeah, at least she's not a token love interest.
Yeah.
But at least the love is familial, right? Yeah. So, anyway.
Okay, so are you ready to listen to my revision?
You bet.
Great. Just a little bit of a warning. This was a little long. I don't know why it ended up being so long. I mean, I did change a lot, and like, I guess that's why.
I don't know why it's so long, except for the fact that I changed a lot and added a lot.
No, but like...
Other than that, I can't understand it.
Because I felt that I simplified the movie a lot, but you can be the judge of that.
Okay.
All right. Ahem. Ahem. In a fashionable Piccadilly artist's atelier, a man...
Oh, dear.
What? What?
No, I'm with you. That's great. I can already tell, like, you've really done it.
You can't throw me in the first sentence. You're killing me.
All right, I'm sorry. I'll be quiet.
All right.
I'll be quiet.
All right. In a fashionable Piccadilly painter's atelier, a man paints a portrait of an aristocratic young lady. Unbeknownst to the sitter's chaperone, who waits in an adjoining room, the painter uses the sitting as an attempt to seduce the young lady with flattery and innocent-seeming touches and adjustments to her posture, nearly succeeding in his attempts when they are suddenly interrupted. A distressed young woman invades the private atelier, stating that she urgently requires the man's assistance. Seeing that the sensual atmosphere has dissipated irretrievably, the painter sighs and dismisses his sitter for the day. The woman introduces herself as Gwen Conliffe and explains that she is engaged to the painter's brother, Benjamin, and that Benjamin is missing. The man asks if Gwen was sent by his father, which she denies, saying that she has snuck to London to find him against his father's wishes. She explains that she'd hoped that his brother had contacted him at some point. She also explains that the night he went missing, 2 local villagers were killed. She alludes to tension between the painter and his father, though without explanation, and the man replies by stating that he cannot aid her given that he has plans to travel to Bohemia the following week and will be away for some months. Refused, Gwen leaves, stating that while the man may have the luxury of turning his back on his family, they are all the family she has left in the world. Despite his initial refusal, the painter wanders to the window of his atelier and watches Gwen as she departs, distressed. As she leaves, she slumps against the entryway of the building. A shaft of afternoon sunlight suddenly illuminates her coif and bustle, creating a striking image of her despair. The painter watches until Gwen composes herself and leaves. Stirred, though whether emotionally or merely aesthetically it is unclear, he digs through a trunk of old papers and photographs until he finds a picture of a beautiful dark-haired woman sitting with 2 young boys. He shakes his head in surrender. Okay, clearly I've made some changes.
Mm-hmm.
I just didn't like the actor thing. It didn't
Sure.
work for me. It didn't work for my purposes. So I've made him a painter. And hopefully, my justifications for doing so will become clear as we go. But also I wanted to make it more, so like there's the continuity error where he lies or misspeaks and says that Gwen wrote him a letter rather than coming to visit him in person.
Yeah, the continuity error.
I wanted to make that.
The,
I wanted to make that intentional.
Oh, okay.
I mean, you'll see in just
All
a
right.
second. I also, this is so petty. I changed Ben to Benjamin because something about the nickname felt overly familiar for a brother that he had not seen in 20 years. And it just felt a little too contemporary, the name Ben, to me.
Sure.
I'm sure people were called Ben in, the turn of the century.
Mm-hmm.
But I was just like, I'm not feeling it. So, yeah, that's
your
what
movie.
I did.
You can name them whatever you want.
It's my movie, and I don't know why people keep telling me what to do. Okay, let's keep going. The painter is next seen on a train into the northern countryside. He sleeps, dreaming of Gwen standing in the same attitude of despair, yet gradually she morphs into the woman in the photograph with the young boys. Upon awakening, he finds that the train has arrived at his destination of Gruelthorpe, a village in North Yorkshire. He disembarks at a lonely train platform. Okay, gone is Blackmore. Again, a petty change, but one that actually ended up being really formative to my writing process. So Blackmore just felt too frankly too like derivative of like, oh, what's a gothic sounding English village?
Yeah.
Blackmore.
That probably was in the original movie, I'm guessing.
Probably it was.
Yeah, I don't know.
Probably
that for
it
sure.
was. But to me, I'm like, it's 2010 as of the filming of this movie. We can't. Sorry, but we can't anymore.
Okay.
Grewelthorpe is a real place. It is really in North Yorkshire. It's beautiful, but very antique looking even to this day. Very scenic. And so I wanted to choose somewhere that had like, you know, like real geographic ties, but also like had interesting features of its construction that I could play with for this. So again, maybe not a necessary choice, but one that just made me start to feel the movie a little bit more. You should look up pictures of it. It's beautiful. Also, the name Grewelthorpe. Come on. Apologies to Grewelthorpians if I'm mispronouncing the name of your village.
They go by Gruelies.
Ah, excuse me. The man arrives at Talbot Hall, a majestic, if decrepit estate outside of Grewelthorpe. He is briefly accosted by Samson, a dog, before being greeted by the mansion's keeper, his father, Sir John Talbot. Finally, the painter is identified as Lawrence Talbot. Lawrence's absence has been extended, as his father mentions wondering what his son looked like. Recalling that Gwen visited him against Sir John's wishes, Lawrence lies, saying that Gwen contacted him by letter to inform him of his brother's absence. But his father mentions dispassionately that his arrival has come too late. His brother's corpse was discovered in a ditch the previous morning. A Sikh man joins the duo. He is Singh, Sir John's manservant, and he explains that Miss Conliffe is also present at the estate. Lawrence heads into the village to investigate the body, which is held at a slaughterhouse. His brother's effects are turned over to Lawrence despite his father's instructions, suggesting that there is tension between Sir John and the villagers. Lawrence investigates the body and is horrified to see that it is both mauled and highly decayed. Later, at a nearby tavern, locals discuss the cause of the murder. They speculate at various causes: some kind of animal, a murderer misdirecting the authorities, a dancing bear kept by the local Romani, some kind of lunatic, and even a werewolf. They go on to discuss the Talbot family's connections to the Romani, revealing that Lawrence's mother was Romani and that she killed herself in a fit of madness, prompting Lawrence to interrupt their conversations. The locals awkwardly apologize, saying that over the years the Talbots have become indistinguishable from the rest of the local folklore. Not quite mollified, Lawrence threatens that they can say what they like about his beast of a father, but that his mother was a saint. After he leaves, the locals remark that Lawrence has inherited the passionate temperament of his mother's people, or else his father's brutal moods. Rumors swirl about Lawrence's year in a madhouse. Okay, so originally in the movie, during this scene, during this tavern confrontation, Lawrence tosses his drink in the face of a man, and again, I didn't quite like that moment. It felt too brash, and maybe it makes sense for a man, raised in America. But I was thinking like, okay, as the son of a local lord / landowner, which would win over, the sort of American teenage and young adulthood, or the sort of early childhood being raised as a member of the landed gentry. And so I wanted to have something that was a little bit more low key, so that there was kind of somewhere to build, because also I didn't really believe that moment of his anger with the rest of the performance that we see, where he's like very sort of, flat.
Sleepy.
Sleepy. Yeah. Yeah. So, I was thinking more about like, if this were a novel from the Victorian period, and I know it's not, it's a movie from 2010, but like how would I expect a social interaction, like an unpleasant social interaction to go? And I was thinking more like, veiled threats, verbal barbs, loaded conversations. And I just wanted to see more of that sort of uneasy dialogue in the movie. I've tried to add it in other places too. Again, so, this is just me venting my frustrations at like the way this doesn't really feel like a period film, even though it has all these like visual trappings of the Victorian era, which I ultimately find to be kind of hollow. Okay, I'm sorry. I promise I'll stop talking so much and just keep talking in a different way. All right. That evening, Gwen joins the Talbots for dinner. She makes polite, slightly stilted conversation, doing her utmost to mitigate the obvious tension between father and son. Lawrence mentions the villagers' obvious distaste for Sir John and, with barely concealed hostility, asks whether Gwen has suffered in his father's care. Uncomfortable, Gwen evades the question, saying that she is certain that Benjamin would have been grateful that Lawrence is here now rather than pursuing a profitable tenure in Bohemia. Sir John mockingly says that Lawrence is the very image of the gentleman painter, despite his crude origins, though he mentions that he doesn't understand his son's attraction to his profession beyond the surfeit of pretty young ladies to whom the painter is exposed. Gwen quietly excuses herself from the table and returns to her room. After dinner, as Singh serves Turkish coffee and cigars, Lawrence changes the subject to his mother's suicide, wondering why she did it, though Sir John only explains that she struggled in life and lost. Lawrence notes Singh's troubled expression in this moment. Then Lawrence mentions that he found a strange medallion amongst Benjamin's belongings. Sir John explains that it represents an Eastern saint who was a Romani, and that Benjamin was the village's negotiator with the group. Sir John and Lawrence recite a poem by Percy Shelley over the moon, which the two of them observe via telescope. That evening, perhaps a little later than is prudent, Lawrence approaches Gwen in her private bedchamber and apologizes for his conduct with his father. He turns over Benjamin's items, which she receives gratefully. She asks him to find out what happened to Benjamin, and he promises to do so. Investigating his former childhood bedroom, he experiences a flashback to him and Benjamin waking in the night, only to discover his mother dead by suicide in his father's arms. Benjamin's funeral, a bleak and hurried affair, takes place the next morning. As the body is committed to the earth, Lawrence finds Gwen standing dazed in the woods near one of Grewelthorpe's architectural follies, which were favorite places for Benjamin and Lawrence to play and hide from their father as children. Gwen observes that Sir John is a remote figure, yet he always seems to be on the verge of exploding into barely contained violence. She reveals that he frightens her, and Lawrence replies that she ought to take care around him. He explains that his father had him confined in an asylum for a year after his mother's suicide, after which he was raised by a bachelor uncle in Paris. Gwen shares that her parents owned a millinery shop in London that passed to her after they were killed in a train derailment. For years, her only object was to keep the business afloat, with little hope for personal happiness. She met Benjamin completely by chance 2 years prior, and she had nurtured hopes of linking their fractured families, helping her business thrive, and living a humble, comfortable life. Touched by her confession, Lawrence asks if he may paint her portrait in lieu of a wedding gift. At first, Gwen is uncertain whether she can trust the rakish Lawrence, having observed his behavior in his atelier. However, his changed manner wins her over. They conduct an impromptu sitting in Benjamin's old bedroom, comparing the painter's art to the milliner's, and admitting to the intimacy that results from painting a portrait of someone or fitting them for a hat. By the evening, Lawrence has the beginnings of a portrait, but he does not yet feel that he has captured his subject's true essence. So, lots of changes here. First off, part of the reason I said it in Grewelthorpe is because it has these amazing architectural follies. Which, in case you don't know, listener, a folly is a kind of playful architecture. So, you know, if you've ever seen the 2005 Pride and Prejudice, the Temple of Diana, where Mr. Darcy and Lizzie Bennet almost kiss in the rain, that's a folly. It's often in imitation of like a classical / like Greco-Roman style, but sometimes they're also mimicking like Baroque Italian architecture and stuff like that, but they're very fanciful. They're not meant to be like residences, generally speaking. They're just these sort of like amusing, silly buildings that rich people would have built kind of for their own pleasure. But I thought that would be a fun sort of setting to play with, rather than just like, oh, we're in the woods. Okay. Or like, oh, like there's a waterfall or something, but like there's not a lot made of those like intricacies of the setting. I've also changed Gwen's thing. She's not the owner of an antique shop. She is a milliner, which was a much, much, much more common profession for women during this period. And yeah, I just thought it made more sense. And I liked the idea of the two of them connecting over a sort of shared investment in like artisan work, art, artistry, that kind of thing. All right. Are my changes like so fussy? They're really fussy.
Well, no, only so much as you're trying to make it more historically accurate.
I am.
Which,
I know.
you know.
I know. But it's like, I don't know. I'm like, if you're going to put something in a historical period, why not go, not necessarily like word perfect to the period, but like, why not really make an effort to make it sing, you know, and to showcase that period. Anyway, despite Sir John's request that Lawrence not go out in the night of the full moon, he heads to the Romani camp that evening to ask about his brother. He is directed to meet Mileva, who is apparently some kind of fortune teller or spiritual leader. She explains that Benjamin had a kind heart and did much to soothe the distrust of the villagers towards the Romani travelers. Lawrence notes that Benjamin was always the more socially graceful of the two. And then the next little bit is the same, where, you know, the locals come to steal the dancing bear, the beast attacks, etc. Before Lawrence is killed by the beast, the pursuing locals fire upon it, which flees, and it flees. Mileva attempts to put Lawrence painfully out of his misery, but the surviving local constabulary intervene and perform field medicine on the dying man. The Romani quickly break camp and depart, leaving behind a scene of pitiful devastation. I had Mileva try to kill Lawrence rather than save his life, because she, more than anyone else, would know what he's in for. And he has just performed heroic actions trying to save members of the Romani village, or the camp. So why would she try to prolong his life? Like, that is ultimately just going to be a life of suffering that they will probably be blamed for in the long run. So I was like, no. But the locals, thinking they know better, try and save his life. The constabulary return Lawrence home to Talbot Hall, where Gwen returns to look after him, reading to him as he wanders through a prolonged state of delirium. Gwen urges Sir John to make peace with his dying son. However, Sir John stares at her without speaking, then slowly backs Gwen against the stair rail, frightening her until she flees upward. After a night of hallucinations and dreams, including one of a massive silhouetted beast, Lawrence begins to recover, his wound closing at an unnatural pace. The local doctor investigates his wound and leaves, disturbed by Lawrence's progress. As Lawrence regains his strength, he returns to the half-finished portrait of Gwen, adding in strange spangles of light that he saw in his delirious dreams. Next part is basically the same. He investigates the scars in the mirror. He talks to Singh as Singh is cleaning his armaments. And the only difference here is that he notes that Singh keeps silver Jezzail bullets rather than shotgun shells. Jezzail muskets were used in, I believe, Afghanistan, my gosh, I can't speak, and parts of India, like British occupied India and like other similar regions during this period of time. Again, I just thought it would be a fun period detail. Also like a little wink towards like Sherlock Holmes fans who would recognize Jezzail bullets and stuff. But the other notable thing is that, shotguns are usually meant for firing at close range, muskets a little less so. Okay. In the village the following morning, Francis Pankhurst, an inspector from Scotland Yard, arrives to investigate the murders that have recently occurred. He heads to Talbot Hall and speaks with Lawrence, professing to admire his portrait of a certain Lady Helm, which he saw at a recent exhibition. In turn, Lawrence remarks that he followed newspaper reports of Pankhurst's investigation of a series of slashing attacks with great interest. Lawrence states that the deaths in Grewelthorpe were likely caused by an animal, though Pankhurst reveals that he is the only local witness who survived to tell the tale, and the Romani speak only of devils. Pankhurst requests that a specialist inspect Talbot's wounds, observing that no predator remains in Britain that could have killed people in such a violent manner. Lawrence asks what the prevailing theory is instead, and Pankhurst answers that a lunatic would be the much better explanation. Recent research into criminal pathology suggests that many homicidal madmen share what Pankhurst calls the antisocial impulse. Talbot resents the implication that he himself could have been the culprit, though Pankhurst clarifies he is not Talbot's enemy and that he is only carrying out his duties. The conversation grows increasingly hostile as Lawrence remarks that the London slasher never was caught after all. With a grim expression, Pankhurst replies that the instrument of criminal pathology grows keener with each passing year. There is even research that suggests it is possible to detect degeneracy in an author's turn of phrase or the stroke of an artist's brush. It is only a matter of time until the true culprit is apprehended. Shortly after, Talbot and Gwyn talk, and they begin to form a romantic bond. Gwyn shows him the interior of a locket that she always wears, which contains a miniature wedding portrait of her parents. Lawrence offers her the photograph of his mother and brother, which Gwyn gratefully accepts. They are interrupted by the arrival of the villagers, whom Talbot can hear at an unnatural distance. They suspect him of being a beast, but Sir John, bluffing that Singh is atop the roof with a repeating rifle, persuades them to leave. The next little bit is the same. Gwyn attends to the wounds that he gets in the little scuffle with the villagers. He starts to realize what is happening to him. The only difference here is that Lawrence kind of demands or begs for Gwen to lock herself in her bedroom that night and to return to London like the next day, rather than sending her off immediately. Let's see. The next bit is the same as well. The locals start preparing for a werewolf hunt, essentially. Lawrence has that strange conversation with Sir John that he has been dead for years. And he locks himself in the mother's crypt. Lawrence transforms, etc., and his attack on the villagers takes place basically the same way. Okay, let's see. The next morning, a horrified Lawrence awakes in the hollow of a tree on the Talbot Hall grounds. His father taunts him for his acts as the beast. Pankhurst arrives to arrest Lawrence. Lawrence, then, is remanded into the care of the York Lunatic Asylum, the same asylum where he was sent as a child. Though he is wary, the new superintendent is a humane man of progressive methods. The doctors attempt to rehabilitate Lawrence, saying that all sublimated urges should be brought into the light and explored rather than suppressed to the point of violence. He finds a kind of peace in their care, resuming his painting and spending long days in contemplation of the past. During this month-long period, the only thing that disturbs his peace is a series of nightmares. Flashbacks to his mother's death, sensuous fantasies of Gwen, whom he continues to paint almost obsessively, and the haunting recollections of both his childhood cruelties at the hand of his father and his own murderous acts. Meanwhile, the moon passes through its phases. Gradually, Lawrence comes to the realization that he saw Sir John tear out his mother's throat in werewolf form, a memory he had suppressed since childhood. Obviously, a couple changes here. Rather than going to an asylum in London, he is taken to a relatively local asylum. And I did a little bit of research. The York Lunatic Asylum was real. It was built in like the 18th century. And even though in its original tenure, it was known for being, not good in all the ways that we associate with early asylums, by the 19th century, it was taken over by a series of really progressive superintendents who were more proponents of like not torturing their patients. There was this one proprietor I read about who tried to fill the asylum with like quote unquote civilizing objects and impulses. So like caged birds, flowers, artwork, things that would sort of attempt to draw the patients back into healthy mental life. And so I liked the idea of kind of going against the grain here of like, yes, there's a distrust of the lunatic asylum as a sort of staple of Victorian fiction. But it was not a monolith. Like there was a lot of variation in the ways that doctors treated their patients. And I wanted this to kind of be like a temporary respite for Lawrence to reflect on his past, and just kind of consider what has happened to him. This also gives him a second to recontextualize his own past. Okay. So, in his asylum cell, Lawrence is visited by Sir John. Sir John tells him the truth, that long ago, in his travels hunting in India, the locals directed him to a remote part of the mountains, where lived some kind of monster with a voracious appetite for human flesh. After climbing and searching for days, Sir John and Singh found the cave, and the creature there, an impossibly massive gray wolf, who bit Sir John, leaving him barely alive. Singh was able to kill the beast. After examining the body, Singh saw that some past hunter had shot the wolf's left fang, completely bisecting it but leaving the root intact. Sir John speculates that the pain drove the creature mad and left it unable to pursue its ordinary prey, forcing it to seek out humans instead. Lawrence asks if the great beast was itself a werewolf. Sir John shrugs, saying merely that the creature's hatred of man was a powerful curse all on its own. So for this, it's not that I disliked necessarily the feral boy werewolf thing, but I was reminded as we were watching the movie of the story of the Champawat tiger, which was like this really famous man-eating tiger that lived in, I think, central India. It killed like 700 people over a span of 10 years or so until it was finally killed by a hunter, and its fang had indeed been like damaged in that way. But like the sort of the legendary big cats of like India and surrounding regions, like that was like such a thing. During like the British occupation and stuff, there were a number of stories like that I thought that would be kind of fun as like a reference to the historical period. Sir John tells Lawrence that on the night of his mother's murder, the locking mechanism that kept him imprisoned in the crypt had broken, simply releasing him. From that night on, he depended on Singh to guard the crypt during the full moon. He was content to lead a Spartan, almost ascetic life with Singh and Benjamin, taking pleasure only in the hunt, as a man. However, after Gwen had come, it had awakened an ungovernable passion in his blood. The bland gentleness of his son's courtship enraged and offended him. The soft and sociable Ben was not fit to have a woman with such melancholy moonlight behind her eyes, quote, pale for weariness of climbing heaven and gazing on earth, wandering companionless among the stars that have a different birth, quote. Ben, sensing his father's growing obsession with his bride, attempted to mollify his father and take Gwen away. Sir John drank himself into a violent rage, knocking Sing unconscious and preventing him from being locked up in the crypt that evening. Roaming free, Sir John killed Benjamin and the other villagers. Now intoxicated by the werewolf's immense power, Sir John reveals that he no longer intends to lock up the beast. Sir John then leaves, but not before telling Lawrence that a rare moon approaches, a Perigian moon that will be at the full for 3 days. He leaves Lawrence with a straight razor with which he may kill himself if he so chooses. Seemingly as an afterthought, Sir John mentions that the dutiful Gwen has stayed at Talbot Hall to be of comfort to Sir John after the loss of his second child. With a wink, he notes that perhaps he'll take another wife after all. He departs, leaving Lawrence terrified for Gwen's safety. On the first night of the 3-day full moon, the asylum doctor sits with Lawrence in his cell, hoping to convince his patient that the full moon will not provoke a transformation in him. Inspector Pankhurst is also present. A tearful Lawrence warns that they are in danger, prompting sympathy from the kindly doctor. At Lawrence's insistence, he is bound in a straitjacket. However, as the moonlight strikes him, it is not enough to contain his transforming body. Pankhurst and the doctor are horrified as Lawrence does indeed give way to the wolf inside him. Tragically, he strikes down the benevolent doctor, though Pankhurst barely escapes with his life after emptying a full clip of pistol rounds into the Wolfman. Lawrence kills many of the asylum staff and patients before escaping the facility, fleeing into the border forest and heading instinctively for home. A shocked Pankhurst pursues. The next morning, a now human Lawrence hides from the authorities in one of the ruined follies in ancient banquet hall. Gwen finds him there, and he tells her the truth. Lawrence pleads for Gwen to flee Grewelthorpe so that she will be safe from him and Sir John, but she refuses, saying that she will not abandon him in his time of great need. The two share a kiss before they are interrupted by the arrival of Pankhurst. Gwen denies that she has seen Lawrence, but Pankhurst urges her to give him up, explaining that the curse is real and that Lawrence cannot stop himself from hurting others. He searches the folly, by which time Lawrence has disappeared. Lawrence, Gwen, and Pankhurst head separately for Talbot Hall. Pankhurst witnesses Gwen and attempts to stop her for her safety. Talbot searches for Sing's silver Jezzail bullets, but finds Sir John has already destroyed them. He tracks Sir John through the house, finding him in the study along with a mauled and seemingly dead Sing. Sir John quotes from Luke and plays the piano, then savagely beats Lawrence, demonstrating incredible strength and vitality even in his human form. When the moon rises, both men transform into werewolves and fight. Sir John has the upper hand through much of the fight. However, as he is about to deal a death blow to Lawrence, Sing, in his final act of stewardship to his lord, fatally wounds Sir John with his silver kirpan before succumbing to his wounds. Crazed from his injuries, Lawrence leaps through a ground floor window and flees back into the woods. I wanted to give Sing a little moment. I also thought it would be cool to have his the sort of sacred dagger of like his Sikh dagger be the thing that
I wonder if
polishes
that
off.
was what that was. I didn't know the name.
I looked it up. And I was just like, oh, like give this character a chance to be as cool as he seems. All right. Gwen roams the woods hoping to find and save Lawrence. When the Wolfman attacks her, Pankhurst bursts in at the last second and shoots him in the heart, wounding but not killing him. Gwen flees, and the werewolf pursues her. Pankhurst follows. Lawrence, as werewolf, chases Gwen to the folly on the lip of the lake. She pleads with Lawrence, in whose sight she glows amid the sparkling moonlit waters, recalling that first image of her in the sunlight that once struck him so deeply. Inconceivably, the Wolfman hesitates, denying his bloodlust just long enough to allow Gwen to pull the silver locket from her neck and press it deep into the wound over Lawrence's heart. The Wolfman then slumps down weakly and reaches out to clasp Gwen's hand. She embraces him as the silver travels through his bloodstream, killing him. As he is dying, gradually transforming from beast back to man, Lawrence thanks Gwen for breaking the curse. Pankhurst arrives and watches as Lawrence dies in peace. The inspector takes off his hat out of respect and turns away, gazing at the doubled moon, one hanging serenely in the sky, one reflected on the rippling surface of the lake, signifying his glimpse at two irreconcilable worlds. The end.
Wow, we really went two different directions with this, didn't we? Mm-hmm. It's interesting to see the ways in which we diverged.
Yeah. Yeah.
We, this is unusual because I think our vision, other than solving like one or two plot problems, like just holes that exist in the original one, or logic, continuity things. So
yeah.
We really just did completely different stuff with this.
Yeah.
It's kind of funny, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, what's your impression?
It's good. It's yours is interesting because it's obviously much more grounded.
Yeah,
where mine is much more in the vein of tropey horror. Right.
And, two houses alike in dignity.
Sure.
I just wanted, this is like not strictly my period because I'm a romanticist, not technically a Victorianist, but I love Victorian literature and the tropes of Victorian and Gothic stories. And I was just like, I just want to do it justice.
Sure. Yeah, I'm trafficking in later ideas of that era.
Yeah.
Much more than I'm trafficking.
Like the way it's articulated in the Universal horror pictures and stuff.
Sure.
I think that makes total sense. You're dealing more with like a cinematic tradition potentially, and I'm dealing with a more literary tradition.
Or just historical one.
Sure, yeah. That's probably more accurate to say. Yeah, this was really fun to work on.
But it's interesting, though, because like everything that I excised, you kept. Everything you kept, I excised. It was kind of funny just hearing, like, wow, we really, like you kept, well, not the romance exactly, but there's still like the tension of that sort. There's sexual tension. The forbidden infatuation, whereas that's gone. In mine, Sir John is a cruel figure in yours, whereas he became that, but he was not always that in mine.
Yeah.
You kept the meeting. In your case, it was no longer the theater, but you kept the meeting between Gwen and Lawrence at starting the movie, whereas I cut that. So you kept the director's cut version. I reverted to the theatrical cut version.
You treated it as though it were a continuity error, and I treated it as though it were a character moment.
Sure.
Which I think is kind of fun.
Well, I like that. Yeah, that kind of hurt me, but to get rid of. But I cut it in part because so if she shows up and says, oh, come save your brother, and then the next day he's on the train and he's already dead, like the timelines seemed fuzzy to me in a way. Like, okay, what's she doing there if he's dead already? Like him being dead and being found the morning before makes more sense if you're dealing with the delays of letter sending, like post basically. So I liked that idea of it. Anyway, but we diverged in that. I kept Max von Sydow in the cane. You did not.
Which I liked that interaction.
Me too.
I love Max von Sydow.
You kind of got to have to go with one or the other.
I know.
And
that's the thing. That's the thing. And, like that was... I really actually like that scene. But I was like, it doesn't... I just don't want to deal with the cane. Because it... the cane's such a big deal in the original movie, and I'm like, we're letting that go.
Right.
We're looking for a different version. Sure. Yeah, it is funny. We kind of have like these sort of, like our projects are inverse versions of one
I know.
another.
It's pretty interesting. I really changed a lot in the Romani camp.
Yeah. Whereas I obviously left that mostly untouched, other than Maleva's intervention, which, after your comments on the ways that the action scenes of the movie present problems, it made me want to go back and give them a similar treatment to like the way you deal with the attack on the Romani camp. So because I thought that was just a really smart comment, but I have what I have on the page.
Sure. And likewise. I kept the him as an actor. You did not. Mm-hmm. I kept the actual Jack the Ripper investigator. You did not.
Yeah, I was.
It's fun. We're really diverging here.
We really did,
but in a way that makes sense to me.
Yeah.
Also.
Yeah. Well, and for me, like, I was fine with, because like it's enough to say, oh, there's an inspector coming from Scotland Yard. Technically, it would be coming north to Grewelthorpe from London, but it was enough for me that there would be like a London police dude that's giving kind of the vibe of Jack the Ripper. But I would rather have something.
It's evoking it rather than specifically referring to it.
Yes.
Sure.
I just didn't like how sort of like bald the movie felt in certain ways.
Sure.
Or like how nakedly it pointed to its references. And then the stuff with Lawrence and Sir John, I kind of wanted to make them a little bit more similar. Like the tension between them is pretty intense and the hostility, but like they're probably more similar to one another than Lawrence cares to admit. Like they're both exploring different kinds of dissipation, and like are both sort of failing themselves through their actions. They're both attracted to Gwen. It's just that one has the chance to act on it and woo her, and the other one doesn't because he frightens her. Mm-hmm. But I wanted it to be more clear that they're like kind of cut from the same cloth, but Lawrence is like, or rather, excuse me, Sir John is just a few more steps down the road of being the wolf than Lawrence is. And Gwen's intervention is the thing that arrests Lawrence in some ways. But yeah, I was wondering how it was going to play to have the scene in the asylum be not, the kind of typical imagery of the Victorian.
That's the thing. I love that sequence. And you cut it.
I know. And
it's yet another diversion.
I know. And there's fun to be had in that sequence, and I don't begrudge its existence or anything. I just kind of wanted it to be a little bit, I don't know. I wanted it to be more like, these are still people earnestly trying to help those like suffering patients.
Sure.
They're not, you know what I mean? Like I wanted it to hurt when Lawrence kills the doctor.
Most of them, yeah.
And like they're just people who are either suffering or trying their best with to their knowledge, the most cutting edge medicine that they have to treat illness. And so I wanted it to just be another thing of like Lawrence failing himself through his actions to others. I mean, he obviously can't control himself as the Wolfman, but like he is sort of asking for harsher or more stringent treatment by like please put me in the straitjacket, bind my limbs. Mm-hmm. It's just that it doesn't succeed. But I wanted this to be a sadder movie, I think, which quelle surprise, right? Like that's always my MO.
I think we both did that. Like ours were,
Definitely.
because mine's pretty bleak too. Mm-hmm. I mean, Lawrence in my version kills himself.
It's super tragic.
Yeah.
Though that reminds me, I did try and address the straight razor thing by like Sir John being like, oh, by the way, I'm going to do something terrible to Gwen. And so that's why in my version, Lawrence is like, I'm probably going I kill everyone, but I have to save Gwen. I kind of liked that as being like his like, yeah, why don't you sort of end this existence if you don't want it?
Right.
Anyway.
Sure.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. This was a fun one to work on though.
Yeah, it was. It was. A lot to work with.
Yeah.
Good bones in this one.
Rich imagery, to be sure. Excuse me. Oh, now I've got the hiccups.
Okay, is that our cue that it's
think
time to get out of here?
It's time for me to mute my mic.
Okay, well, folks, which revision would you most like to see on screen? What movie would you like to see us cover next? Let us know at thedevilsworkshoppod@gmail.com.